Because Mean Gene, it's all in the stroke, brother.
I have heard that.
He hit him with a mummy. He hit him with a mummy.
Why me? Why me? Smells like manure. That's the wall up there, brother.
What the hell is going on?
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to The Worst There Was, a deep dive into the very terrible depths of professional wrestling. Season 1, Episode 2.
Yes.
WCW Halloween Havoc, 1999. As ever, you're joined by your host. First of all, I'm Alan Irwin.
And I'm Ronan Linsky.
And how did you find this, Ronan? Was it...
I broke it up into parts, even though it was only 2 hours, 46 minutes. I thought...
You said that like that's nothing, though. Like,
well, you watch...
If you were in the toilet for 2 hours, 46 minutes, you'd be like, that is too long.
The Godfather's 3 hours, you don't go...
Yeah, but this is not The Godfather.
Yeah, this is definitely not The Godfather.
There is a couple of gangland-style attacks,
yeah,
but I'm not sure that it's The Godfather.
Yeah.
And how are you doing generally?
You're
in a dressing gown?
I'm in a dressing gown. It was a nice day, but it got a bit cold, a bit chilly there. Just boringly talking about gas prices going up, We're just...
A little insight behind the curtain here. Before the show starts, we always do a little mic check. We just chat for a bit, and we decided to talk about the price of gas.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, that maybe people will want that podcast.
Yeah, well, here, if we ever start a Patreon,
just news.
We'll just include those bits, the bits where we're not talking about professional wrestling.
Maybe it could be like an ASMR, like constant update of the price of gas.
For the listener, Ronan likes ASMR,
I do.
So I think ASMR. It's just literally you just like the idea of there being of me going like, and Ronan,
See, that's going to make a very low energy podcast.
Yeah, you'd be all drooling.
Yeah. Sometimes when I get home on a lunch break from work, I watch ASMR, and then I go, am I going to make it back into work?
See, I don't get it at all. It just doesn't do it for me. I like things to be loud and obnoxious.
Well, the first time I watched it, I did a full, I think it was a full like 2 hour, 3 hour stint on it. And I still remember this day. I was in my mum's house in the spare room in my boxers, and I started almost drooling. And then I read later on about how it can induce a catatonic state. So
well, here,
maybe that's been my life.
Speaking of 3 hour video inducing a catatonic state, WCW Halloween Havoc 1999.
Some of these wrestlers may well be catatonic, actually. In this show.
So I mean, definitely the Nitro we watched, you could see things had changed, but like this feels so different from a month ago.
Very different, yeah.
It's mostly the same people.
Literally, just you can feel the meddling.
Yeah.
You can feel the just constant, like, this has to be different.
Yeah.
It's like going to one of those restaurants where they're like, I have to reinvent every dish. And you're like, I quite like banoffee the way it is. I don't need to eat the banana peel.
Yeah. A little bit of background to it. So, October 24th, 1999, it's the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, which hosted every Halloween Havoc since 1995. Now, last month, remember, there was only like 3,000 people actually paid, and then another 3,000 had just turned up. Well, this month they got 8,464 paid.
Right.
So that was nearly everybody paid in the arena.
Is that the capacity roughly?
Yeah. Well, so this is the first time they've dipped under 10,000 people, but that's reasonably full, like 8,500, and they've all paid. They want to be there, so they may not have wanted to be there by the end, but they certainly did. One thing I also noticed as well, which really bugs me, is the constant references to Russo and Ferrara. It's like,
the guys in New York or something.
Yeah, the guy, and those were two writers, and all. You're like, what are you doing?
But that's their ego, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. They're trying to give this a lure of like, is it real? Because it's all bullshit, bro. Yeah. Except my bits. So okay, let's talk about it. So start off, I thought the opening package was terrible. It was just like
they're obsessed with this like numbers thing.
Yeah,
they're obsessed with this like matrix sort of like, is this real life? Is this coding?
Something?
I don't know what's going on.
But like, I did enjoy the awful like animated spiders that came down.
Oh yeah, I loved the wee spider graphic.
And the terrible like cheesy set of the
I think the set's
the big pumpkin.
The big pumpkin's brilliant because, like, though it was like an inflatable, there was something mildly believable about its breathing. It kept like breathing out steam out its nostril. Yeah. But it was supposed to be like what, like a half bat, half devil thing or something.
It was like, obviously Batman, but there's his enemy Man Bat, who's like a humanoid bat.
The wrong way around.
Yeah, and he looked like that.
And he's clutching a big pumpkin.
Because it was weird as well, because they did the whole like spooky thing, and the music was like spooky, but the opening package was all bright colours.
Yeah, that's
fun.
what I was like. I was wanting, because whenever you go to click on it on the network, there's that image of what like a.
Oh yeah, that made my dog bark. It was like a wolf or something.
Is it? Yeah, like a wolf with like devil eyes, like a kind of like evil eyes. But
or is it a monkey? It's something.
It looked like a sort of Contagion vibe. Like like kind of this monkey's gonna bite
And then they're like,
everyone.
tonight, do.
Yeah, because I always liked, growing up, I never watched WCW, but I always played the games, and I always liked the vibe of Halloween Havoc. I was like, that's cool, because I do enjoy whenever wrestling sort of whenever wrestling has a Christmas episode, and I don't mind when the wrestlers are a bit more goofy. Like I can,
I like that. I like whenever they acknowledge the place they're in as well. If they like go, the set is some house thing. Like, I remember WrestleMania 20 was Madison Square Garden, so the stage was the New York skyline and things like that. I like all that. I think that's a fun way to do it.
And I've no problem. The wrestlers like AEW or something. The wrestlers dressing up as Santa and stuff. Because you're like, well, it's their workplace. They would have like a dress time sort of
Santa jumpers.
Christmas
jumpers. They're not called Santa jumpers. So that's a type of Christmas jumper.
That is, yes,
but it is not. But why am I going in such detail about this? It doesn't matter.
Well, they had the graveyard. They had the sort of mist. The kind of like fog, and that was enjoyable. But there was no. What date was it actually?
October 24th. So it used to always be around Halloween. So the following Sunday was literally Halloween. So it's strange that they did Halloween Havoc a week before, but. So we have Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan. Joe Mike today in commentary. He does all the interviews, of which there are a lot.
Yes.
The first thing you tell is Rey Mysterio Jr. is injured, so they won the tag titles on Monday night, and they're immediately stripped to them.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a three-way, which is Conan and Kidman against Harlem Heat against Brian Knobbs and Hugh Morris. We get to look at Big Ham Face again.
Big disgusting bingo lady Brian Knobbs. Big bingo granny.
It's going to be a hardcore match, so when I first heard that, I thought, maybe that'll be fun.
Yeah.
We once again get like the big long thing at the start where they talk about every match.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and
you just lose momentum.
Sid and Goldberg.
And Goldberg. I know it's the biggest match, but we've bought the pay-per-view now. It's like, I said this at the Fall Brawl episode. They've got our money. Don't, leave it.
Don't push this. Yeah. It's not like we're going to turn You're not like, I'll turn off now because, I've paid for this thing, but sure.
But I haven't seen Sid yet. I know he's coming.
Yeah.
Speaking of losing momentum, Disco Inferno was the first guy out.
The first guy. Match. I know the I don't know, maybe there's a mystery to booking that we don't understand, but, my idea would be, like a pay-per-view, you come in and you hear the commentators and then you just go ding, ding, ding. And then the first match, the first person that comes out
should pop
gives
the
you
crowd.
A wee bit of a pop at least. Like maybe, it's not going to make you go, whoa. I don't like some modern pay-per-views where maybe one of the best matches is on first because that can create like a lag, especially if it's like 4 hours. But Disco Inferno.
I know. So it's Cruiserweight title on the line. Disco Inferno defend against Lash LaRue. And he's just crap.
Is he for the crowd there or something? Is that his point? Is he like, what do you call it, the guy that danced in WWE and everyone liked his music?
Oh, Brodus Clay?
No, the guy, the actual did like...
Fandango?
Yeah. And like, I would love to see Fandango live maybe or something. All Disco Inferno, maybe actually now picturing Disco Inferno turn up in an indie show would be really depressing.
But you know what? That's
Is it
what,
like for people to dance, like children?
I don't know. It's like, that's what a dark match is for.
Yeah.
But as he comes out. Now, to be fair to him, he does dance a bit more than he did on Nitro. Do you remember on Nitro he did like 2 moves?
He didn't know what disco was.
No, and he's all... and he's been Disco Inferno since 1996.
Yeah,
so I know...
maybe occasionally forgets. Like he's like, what is disco again?
He watches Saturday Night Fever before he comes out. And then
he's like, is this Donna Summer? I feel love. And they're like, sort of, yeah, but a few more moves, please.
I quite like Lash LaRue.
Yeah.
But the crowd doesn't give a shit about him. Like, he
is
comes
Lash
out...
LaRue the guy that used to be in that gay tag?
No, that's Lenny and Lodi. No, that's a different guy.
Yeah.
So
I thought he looked. I was like, what did Lash LaRue used to be? Anything?
Nothing. He's quite new, so I think he's just Lash LaRue. So the Raging Cajun, he comes out. Nobody cares. I mean, he's fine. He's one of those guys. He's a very competent wrestler.
Yeah.
But he's silly looking. The same as...
Was this match billed anywhere? Was this like, did the crowd go, that's coming up? Was he totally new at this?
Well, it was because he was on Nitro there, so they built it for a couple of weeks. Basically, he'd just been on like Saturday night and stuff, which nobody really watched.
But for a main, like for the first event at the pay-per-view, first match,
it's just a weird. Like I maybe would have opened with like a Guerrero against Saturn or something, where it's like people care about or even open with a tag match. Bit
of energy. Yeah,
there actually is a point where the camera goes around the arena. You're like, oh, this is quite a small arena. It doesn't look, you can see the back.
Yeah.
And there are empty seats, and you're like, don't.
You can see
one thing WWE is great at, especially now where their ticket sales are down, is figuring out how to not show you that.
Yeah,
like if you're in the arena, obviously,
the camera angle can like make like 5 people look like 100 or something.
Yeah, often the hard camera side could be empty, but you wouldn't know that watching it on TV because they very carefully don't show angles of it. Well, WCW was like, I show that, it'll be fine. The match itself is like very like typical late WCW cruiserweight match, which is a slightly faster heavyweight match. Like there's not...
No one does anything spectacular, but they get up off the mat quite quick.
Yeah.
Someone...
And Disco does a bit of a dance, like it's a far cry from like Rey Mysterio against Juventud Guerrera when you've got Disco Inferno against Lash LaRue, you know, and it's not because Rey and Hoovy have been pushed so much that they're beyond that now. It's just, I don't know.
I have no idea what like the style was here. Occasionally, like the hit, like those strange moves that you don't see anymore, like a big atomic drop.
Yeah. I did like Lash gets an ear fall with a power bomb that looks quite good.
Yeah.
But it's quite short. Nothing really happens. It finishes out of nowhere, really. It's a bit anticlimactic. I think now, if I remember this right, Disco hits a inverted atomic drop and then a stunner, which he calls the last dance.
His stunner, yeah.
Which they're obviously like, look how shit Steve Austin is. Disco Inferno's got the same finishing move.
One thing I noticed in this match that I always enjoy in wrestling, and I don't pay attention to too often, is when referees make a pained face.
They go,
like whenever he hit the inverted atomic drop, the referee went like, oh, like that would be sore.
Like gurning.
Yeah, and you're like, well, you work here all the time. Like you see all this. If you're squeamish, that's like a pilot or something.
But that's like the most minor thing that happens tonight is like an inverted atomic drop.
I wouldn't want that to happen to me. I wouldn't mind having my forehead cut open, but like someone's knee going slightly into my balls.
But it's not even, that's not where it hits your coccyx. So it's like, oh, I broke my maybe he broke his tailbone in his youth and he had to sit in a rubber ring for 6 weeks. And he's like, I'm never going through that again.
That's why he's a referee. He's like, that's the end of my career.
That's it. My career is like, I don't know, a binman or whatever he was. A bin man. So after the match, Lash attacks Disco and gives him a Michinoku driver on the belt and then throws the belt down. Yep. One of the things that Russo seems to do all the time is like, nobody's a good guy. They're all like... everybody's a bit of a dick.
Everyone's annoyed. Yeah, when the good guy loses, he's like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna beat that guy up."
Like he lost fair and square.
Yeah, he didn't like. It wasn't like he was sneaky or something.
No.
Disco Inferno.
And it would make sense if it was maybe a heel turn. Although you're not going to get booed attacking Disco Inferno.
Yeah. The crowd do seem to like Disco Inferno, but maybe they're just enjoying his music or something.
Well, it is fun. Yeah. He's so cocky, he's so cool, he's just a disco dancing fool.
So sometimes when I was watching, it's like, are they enjoying him or just maybe they're just like...
The gimmick is kind of a fun idea, but it's like, he should be a total comedy character. Like,
it should be over the top.
Yeah. He's the guy you put in like the hardcore division or something like that, where it's like, you're so like Crash Holly or somebody who was actually much better than Disco, but the cruiserweight belt is like too important to waste it on a guy doing the fucking moonwalk.
Well, he's not. Yeah, that's what's wrong with him. For me, he's not committed enough to a disco. Even it should be ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it should be a silly
like
man.
Disco ball earrings, something like that. Just like constant dancing, even whenever like.
See, because I remember like watching. It must have been like when he debuted, he was wrestling for the cruiserweight title, and he used to like lose matches because when he could have got the win, he's like fixing his hair and all. It's like that's what you want. You want that.
Yeah, like kind of like
so we're gonna get a lot of disco over the next year because Vince Russo loves Disco Inferno. So
I feel like we'll have to just pass by it at times.
You just talked about him. Disco was there.
Preferred episode 2. Yeah, for
our thoughts
because I feel like he's not going to get much better or anything like that.
No, he's not. He's not going to get much worse either. To be fair, give him that. But no. So then we go backstage to earlier in the day. Outside, Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit, who have been in Japan, they turn up and Perry Saturn comes
literally
out.
just like
they were wrestling in New Japan.
Just back,
Well, I don't know if they're literally back that minute.
Oh, jet lag or anything.
I have no idea.
Wrestlers never talk about jet lag.
No, and it would really fuck you up, I would imagine. So Perry Saturn comes out in a lovely hat.
Perry Saturn, I don't even know what. I've just written down on some notes, Perry Saturn's look, ? Because I'm like, there's nothing to refer to.
It's like...
I've never seen anything like it.
He's got a... I don't know what type of... It's like a leather, like, fez almost.
Yeah, I suppose that would be...
And his shirt is like the shirt that a host at an Indian restaurant would wear.
Yes.
A big collar tucked in to his black jeans or trousers. There might be slacks, actually. They're pleated slacks. He's got big legs.
Yeah.
And sunglasses.
Wee tiny, like Noel Gallagher, Liam Gallagher sunglasses. Wee tiny, like John Lennon ones or something.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. It's hard to... To be fair, he's a ridiculous looking man all the time. So maybe he's just gone, I'll combine all these things.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
I can't
figure out, is that what he wears off camera?
Yeah, I'd say so. Because I was thinking during his match later, I was like, imagine going on a date with Perry Saturn. Like, he's in good shape. And he's probably got a decent bit of money. Well, back then he had a bit of money. He's not doing well now. He's Kickstarter to get his breakfast. But go and date with Perry Saturn. You're like, what a strange thing to look across the table at. So maybe he's gone.
It's next if he had those up.
But no one's maybe he wears all those things
To distract?
No, yeah, you kind of go if you're kind of like quote unquote ugly.
You got to be interesting.
Yeah, you get sort of affected, eccentric things. You go, I'll wear this. I used to wear a woman's coat when I was 20. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, girls and I'd be like, it's a woman's coat. And I'm like, I'm unattractive.
I don't know. Some people fancy Paul McCartney.
Not old Paul McCartney said that.
Yeah, I know.
We turkey neck.
It's time to rock and roll and stop and stroll. You're like, what are you? Basically, they've been away while there's been some infighting in the Revolution.
Yes.
And Perry's like, why didn't you return my calls? And then Dean Malenko was like, yeah, well, you can stick the Revolution up your ass.
Who said that?
Malenko. And then Ben was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then they leave. So Perry's very annoyed.
Yeah. Ben was wearing a very crisp shirt as well.
What was he wearing? I can't even.
He sort of looks like a front of house kind of guy. Like he's like, I'll take you to your seats. Won't take your order, but I'll take you.
I'll take your seats. I'll pass on your drinks order.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'll not be getting the shirt dirty tonight.
No, definitely not. So then we go to an interview with Harlem Heat. Mike Tenay's interviewing them about the tag team match, which is next. It's kind of a generic interview, but they both have really good fire. Like they're very charismatic guys.
I think Booker T's very charismatic. I'd say Stevie Ray kind of like.
He's not on Booker's level, but he is decent.
You can see him thinking of what to say. You can see him going, I better get this line in,
Did you notice Stevie has this big, massive scar on his right shoulder? No. It's quite unpleasant to look at. It's one of those ones, I think he's been stabbed or something.
It's it's healed and everything.
Yeah, but it's a really old scar, but it's really unpleasant.
Right.
My favourite moment in the interview was Booker finishes his bit by going, now can you dig that? And Tenay goes, I can relate to that.
To be fair,
he was talking about growing up on the streets.
Yeah, I can relate to that. We had a street where I lived.
I certainly grew up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a lot of charisma. I like them as a team. I think they're fun guys.
Great, yeah.
And they're fighting next three-way dance, street fight rules for the World Tag Title. So there's the First Family, which is Hugh Morrison and Brian Knobbs, Harlem Heat, which is Booker T and Stevie Ray, and the Filthy Animals, that are Conan and Billy Kidman. So first of all, the First Family come out in Halloween masks. Mm-hmm. I don't know why.
Don't know why.
And then
Jimmy Hart's mask is very unusual.
Yeah.
Like it's like sort of angry, like deranged gorilla mask.
Yeah. And then Knobbs looks better with it on.
Knobbs classically, yeah. Knobbs takes it off, and
Heenan got a good line on the way where he said they said they were going to wear a mask. Why hasn't they?
The classic nice. Halloween when like your uncle or something see him like all dressed up for Halloween. I see, and you go, I'm a 10-year-old boy. Why are you giving my self confidence such a beating?
Brutal.
Yeah.
Harlem Heat are out next, and then the Filthy Animals come out. They've been stripped of the tag titles, but they're still wearing the tag titles.
Yeah.
So I don't.
And
Conan's a big silly man.
Yeah,
with only his top button in.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of cool for the bassist in every new metal band, things like that.
But I don't think he was in
every new metal band had a vaguely Mexican guy in their group who was like, I'm from South LA, and they're like, okay, and they're like, he gives them a bit of legitimacy. Otherwise, it's just some sad white boys.
The Kidman's got a video camera with him. Mm-hmm. The Kid Cam, which he started using now.
Are these tapes available anywhere?
Well, it's used as storyline points a few times on the show, right?
Okay.
And there's a bit we'll not review this show in full, so I'll tell you about it. It's a couple of weeks later. They're like, oh, Elizabeth is getting changed. Let's film her through the door. Kidman and Guerrero and Mysterio. And then they show you through the camera, and it's not Elizabeth, it's Lex Luger working out, but Elizabeth's there, right? And then they made a big production fuck up, and they use an outtake, so you can hear Elizabeth laughing and trying to forgetting her lines,
right?
And then it cuts back, you can see the fucking camera, the boom mic over the Kid Cam.
Oh, like
the actual camera crew.
Yeah, to show that.
Then it goes back to the camera, and then it goes back, and then they go, right, that's a cut, and you see a guy hit the clapper. I'm like, what happened there?
Did they use effect of video camera on the camera?
Yeah, And you're like, but how are you picking up that feed?
Yeah, what are they doing that thing? If you try and take a photograph through binoculars on your iPhone, and you hold it up to the binocular, are they putting the camera up to the video camera and trying to they're wait, I've sort of got it. I don't get the Billy Kidman filming thing. Is he doing that thing far right people do now, where they when they're getting challenged, they get a camera out to be like, look, I've got you, and you're like, what? You're filming me, filming you being awful. Louis Theroux, where it's they're all like, we're getting you on camera. You're like, what are you filming Louis Theroux eating a fucking sandwich?
Yeah, Louis Theroux will be fine.
While you're throwing a fucking Heil Hitler.
The match starts with a load of bin shots. They love a wee bin shot.
And bins for me, I don't know about you, but bins for me feel like one of the weaker weapons in wrestling.
Yeah, but it is just, it looks like thick tinfoil,
Yeah.
So all the teams go outside. There's a great moment where Booker T throws Brian Knobbs into a female photographer.
Right.
And she barely moves, but Knobbs takes a bump. And you're like, yes. She was rock hard. I think she was standing next to Bill Apter. Do you know Bill Apter? He's like a famous, I think he was taking photos as well. The match is like chaos, but at the start is kind of fun.
It's
this
a
is
bit
a
of
fun
crack,
brawl, you know. Jimmy Hart doesn't have his sunglasses on though, and I think he looks quite upsetting without them. He's got a deathly.
Is he like Bono with those wee eyes or something?
Yeah, he's like, you're like, what are you? There's a bit where they fight up to the stage and into the graveyard. And Knobs gets thrown through a coffin.
The coffin's very, very, very weak.
Yep.
Yeah. The coffin's got that kind of like wood where it looks like polystyrene inside it or something.
Yeah, it's like padded.
Yeah.
But did you notice one of the tombstones just said dead?
Did it say dead?
I thought it said dad at first, but it just said dead.
Yeah.
So there's somebody dead in here. Hugh Morris does a moonsault to Conan's to a table, which looks good. He's a good moonsault.
He's got that kind of like thing where he's a big guy or chunky guy anyway, and when he does a moonsault, he like goes perfectly over. You know, go, he's hanging in the air for a bit. You're like,
it's not even like I used to love Vader's moonsault, but Vader was like he was just about getting over kind of thing. It was like but you know he wasn't landing straight. But Hugh Morris lands perfectly every time. It's really impressive. Right, so then they're fighting in the ring, and then it abruptly cuts backstage.
Yeah.
And Booker T and Stevie Ray are beating up Brad Knobs.
Yeah.
Brad Knobs on the ground. Stevie picks up like a paper mummy.
No.
And just throws it on him.
No, he jumps with it.
Oh, does he?
He does like a splash.
Oh, but with the mummy in the middle?
But the mummy makes the splash look softer. Do you know what I mean? Like they obviously went, it's Halloween Havoc. What will be around backstage? The production company were going for a graveyard vibe and they thought the mummy's a bit ridiculous, you know. We could have done an Egyptian thing. But, so they go, we'll use Halloween weapons. And you're like, there's no use. Maybe I'm getting ahead of like the idea of what's legal, but there's no use of fireworks in the show or I don't know, someone dressed.
This is a classic. Why does nobody bring a gun to a no-holds-barred match?
Why do you attach a catheter wheel to someone, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but the mummy looks, you know, shit. Like it just looks really light. Yeah. And he jumps with it. Is it Stevie Ray or is it
Stevie Ray?
Yeah.
But then Booker T pins him.
Yeah.
And gets the win.
It's so confusing as to how that would have hurt Brian Knobs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's just tired.
Really rushed.
Maybe he was breathless from wearing the mask and he just was weakened. So they win. There's two referees. So there's no bell.
Was there two referees from the start?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's one in the ring and one backstage. But then in the ring, it's really badly filmed. We don't see it.
They don't even show a replay
but
of it.
The filthy animals then win.
Yeah.
Or pin Hugh Morris in the ring.
They claim they did it
Harm Heat won it first, so they get the belts. It's like it's a mess.
It's a total mess. There's a couple of times in the show where you kind of go, what was happening there? You know,
I think the problem is, you know,
the commentators weren't told.
The commentators aren't told. That's a huge issue, I think. But also, WWE was so used to doing everything simply, while WWF, you know, under like the Russo right now, was more complicated. There was more to do production wise, and they're just not used to having to like keep up with that.
But Vince made sure.
Yeah, it was done right. Like, one thing you always say about WWE is like their production is flawless.
Like,
you know,
like Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross would always know what had happened.
Yeah,
and then they'd tell
WCW for a while had a phase where they didn't show the backstage segments to the crowd
and everyone
or the commentators, so they didn't know what had happened.
Like you know that would have been that wasn't the worst finish in the world. That idea of like someone pinned someone backstage while someone pinned someone in the ring. I don't know if that's been done much, but it's quite creative.
Like to me, the way you would do it is split screen.
Yeah.
And like
almost like one.
While they're on two, Booker's on three or something. You know, it'd be hard to time, but you could do it. You know,
they could have pre-recorded the backstage at some point. You know what I mean? They could have gone like, we'll pre-record this.
Speaking of mummies, you've seen, I'm sure, the Yeti in WCW. That was Halloween Havoc '95. Who was a mummy, but they called him the Yeti.
They were like, can't call him the mummy because. That's been copyrighted.
That's probably what it is.
Egypt.
By Egypt. So then he like bums Hogan with the Giant. Remember? Good times. Good. That was nearly the era of WCW we should have done because that was a silly
very
time.
Silly era. Yeah, this is more like trying to be cool.
Yeah, which is worse.
It's cringe.
Conan separates his shoulder.
Yeah, for real,
okay. And it looks really sore. But also the trainer keeps touching it. I don't know why. He's like, I think that's definitely separated.
Every time he touches it, he adds like a month recovery to it.
Yeah, he's like, stop touching me. He's like, yeah, I'm fairly sure that you've broken your shoulder. So that's not good. Right, so then we cut backstage. Ric Flair and David Flair arrive.
Yep.
Ric's got a crowbar, which we're going to see a lot of tonight. David Flair is wearing like a wee jumper while his dad's in a suit. And it just really underlines like David Flair is lame.
Yeah,
compared
really
to his
lame.
dad.
Yeah.
So then DDP and Kimberly come out, both wearing very weird clothes that are like swarthy or something. They're like,
and he's very serious, DDP, and he's not coming out all fun.
Bada bing, bada. I can't suck. I'm not from Las Vegas. Kimberly starts by saying that Ric Flair spanked her 14 times.
Yes.
On Monday night in that weird
in a
segment.
hotel room.
Yeah,
I know.
And then she refers to the world title as that stupid belt. And you're like, that's great. Yeah, way to get it over there. Like, DDP's about to brag about being a 2-time champion.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's stupid belt.
Yeah. Maybe that's like domestic. She's like, that stupid belt.
Yeah, and you're fucking... You're saying 2 times, 3 times, you fucking idiot. And then she says when her and DDP are having sex, a 14-time spanking is just a warm-up.
Yeah.
Which I really don't want to think about them riding.
No.
Like, she's an attractive woman, but he's all wrong.
He's like, I love DDP in a way because of how like sleazy he looks.
Yeah.
You know, he looks like the classic, like he was a nightclub winner, but he just looks like a nightclub winner. You know,
He's very Wayne Lineker to me.
yes. Character you'd meet in like GTA or something. You'd see DDP down the alleyway next to a car. He actually wouldn't be doing any crime, but you'd be like, arrest him anyway.
Yes.
Kimberly explained consent.
What?
Which is sort of, I definitely heard saying that when Ric Flair did it, it was bad. Like it was really spoken out, really like a child. It was like, when Rick did it, it was bad. But when DDP did it, it was good.
It's like, yeah, because I wanted them to.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, Rick, this is consent.
And then DDP has a weird criticism of Flair where he's like, you were alone with her and you only spanked her. It's like, what, do you want him to sexually assault your wife? Is that what you want?
People do say, like, my wife says, whenever we have kids or something, she's like, they can't watch wrestling. I'm like, no, they can watch it now. But
they can watch it then.
The wrestling we watch would have given you some very bad ideas of how men are supposed to treat women. Yeah. One channel, you're putting them through a table or something, and then the other one, you're spanking them in a hotel room against their will. Oh.
I don't know what's worse, really.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose actually the spanking's worse because kids are more likely to imitate that. They're unlikely to put women through tables.
That's difficult, yeah.
So DDP has some trouble, but he gets a strap out of his trousers.
Yeah.
Like he's probably a bit sweaty and it's like stuck to him. And he challenges Flair to make their match tonight a strap match.
So the match was just billed as a match?
Okay. But that also makes me think, it's like, why didn't you promote that ahead of time? Because, I mean, a strap match wouldn't make me buy a pay-per-view, but there's bound to be somebody that
this is a bit of, something else to...
Yeah.
People go, oh. And am I wrong? Like, I've obviously watched wrestling a lot, but I can't remember much wrestling where the pay-per-views, there's so many changes.
No, that's unusual.
So many promos. So they're WWE or WWE, WWF pay-per-views I've watched over time. Like, I can't imagine as many promos or something.
No, it definitely was. But then when you think about it, there's a lot of matches, but most of the matches are quite short, actually.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no 20-minute barn burners. It's like 10 minutes tops. That's why a lot of WCW shows had like 12, 13 matches because they were all short, and also just filled time. It's like, who wants to see fucking, I don't know, Buzzkill, who's, do you know Buzzkill?
No.
I don't think we'll ever appear on the podcast, but he is Brad Armstrong and he has a character where he's Road Dogg, basically.
Right. Like just taking the piss out of Road Dogg, or he's just being...
He's being Road Dogg. He has the same music and he comes out and he's like, oh, you didn't know, or whatever. He doesn't say, oh, you didn't know, but like... Oh. And it's Road Dogg's brother, obviously, so he's like it's really weird.
Is this before this era or after this era?
It would be like in the next month or two, but I don't think he ever appears on pay-per-view, so I don't think we'll see him.
Yeah.
Or like Hole-in-One Barry Darso or whatever, guys like that, you're like...
I thought that was from like early 90s or something.
That was like 98 or something. It's like, no, he was never on the main show. But we then cut backstage again. Goldberg arrives, he demands to know where Sid is, and the guy's like, oh, I think he's over there. And he's like, he's so intense. And then interview with the Filthy Animals. So Tenay is interviewing Eddie, Kidman, and Tori, and he reminds them that the Animals are barred from ringside for Eddie's match, and they get all annoyed. And then Guerrero promises to win, and then shows off Ric Flair's Rolex that he stole on Monday night. It's like, yeah, look at my tacky watch. Yeah. He's also got Wayne Lineker vibes now.
Guerrero?
Yeah, because of his tacky watch. So the next match, which like on paper I was like, oh, I'm very excited for this. Perry Saturn against Eddie Guerrero. So Guerrero leaves his watch with Heenan and says, I trust you, but I don't trust Tony Schiavone.
Heenan bites the watch?
Yeah, it's like it's real. I enjoyed through the match as well. He's like, do you know if there's any pawn shops open at this time of night?
And
like,
funny.
Or Schiavone's like, did you just put that in your pocket? Like, it's fun. So the match starts off fast. There's a really nice bit where Eddie takes a bump on the ropes from a flapjack that like looks brutally, lands like with his rib cage on it.
Yep. Even the spots where he's working on Eddie's ankle and stuff, like when he actually does that sort of kind of boring move where wrestlers do like a bum squat onto the guy's knee, like it's kind of like a big jumping,
Yep.
Theirs does look like you're like, oh, that would...
Oh, yeah, that would really hurt.
Eddie's leg bends, and you're like, oh.
And there's a great bit where he does a military press onto the steps, and then Eddie injures his hand.
Yeah. Eddie's just like, if all the wrestlers had Eddie Guerrero's like brain or something, like it's like Eddie Guerrero understands like every part of your body, what you would react like if it was hurt. You wouldn't just go like,
or pass out, you know, because you got a sore leg.
Yeah, you'd sort of, if someone hurts your hand or something, that's a very specific thing.
And he sold it perfectly. He landed, because at first I thought he he legitimately injured his hand.
Yeah.
But then once Saturn started working the hand, I was like, oh no, it's at work. But the way he landed the steps, the hand came down first. Like, so that would be all his weight coming down on the hand. You're like, that makes perfect sense.
It's just, he's brilliant.
Also, nobody ever does that. Nobody ever goes, my hand is the thing that's weakened. You know, it's always a leg. Or,
which is totally, it makes it so much sense. You know, like wrestling, you know, like.
Saturn does a really good pop-up powerbomb and then a springboard crossbody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's really good as well.
Great
Like,
as well.
The two of them are...
Yeah, Saturn's obviously, you know, just not as...
Saturn's not as charismatic, I think. And he's not quite on Eddie's level, but like...
He was always great. You know?
Like, it really... I sort of forgot... Like, when I watched him in WWF in 2000, I wasn't... Remember, Terry was his manager, and I wasn't really that interested.
Well, it sort of made him into a joke, didn't they?
Yeah, but when you look at, like, the Radicals, you know, when they came over, it's like, all four of them were, like, amazing wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
100%. Yeah.
You know, and that's why you went from, like, Intercontinental Champion The Godfather to Intercontinental Champion Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, it got better.
It was a bit of a change.
Yeah. But, you know, it all turned out that actually Godfather was better in many ways.
Godfather was definitely treated people a lot better.
A lot better, yeah. So after working a hand for a while, then Saturn starts on the ankle. And as you said, like, that part of the match really slows down, but it's good.
It works.
Like, it works.
This is like the bit. This is the bit where you're like, oh, this is, you know, I want to see maybe 10 more minutes of this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's one criticism I have of this match, really, apart from the finish, is that it could have went a lot longer.
Yeah.
I'd happily watch them for half an hour. Saturn then goes for a crucifix powerbomb off the turnbuckles. Eddie slides out, drop kicks him, and then hits a superplex. It's just a great way. Yeah. But just at that moment, then Ric Flair arrives with his crowbar. And he like jogs like gently. Did you notice him doing like a dad run? Saturn rolls out, and then Flair attacks Guerrero and gets him the win by DQ. Kidman runs out for the save. Gets hit with a crowbar as well, which is fun. Conan and Mysterio are in the hospital, as they said, so there's nobody else. Tori then goes to check on Kidman, and Flair thinks about hitting her with a crowbar, and then goes, no, I'll just kiss her.
Yeah. Well, I like when she runs out, Bobby Heenan says, what in the world is she going to accomplish? It's so harsh. It's like, why did you bother coming out?
You fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like, and she runs out. He does his whole, like, well, I call it Nation, but you know, it's like, we strut and slap on his chest.
I was thinking it was kind of like, you know, whenever you watch David Attenborough, like Life of Birds or something. Yeah. And there's always a weird bird in the jungle that does like a mad dance. Yeah. You're like, Ric Flair, you kind of believe it. I go, do you know what? That's so weird. It is attractive. Maybe when we're like, he's got breeding power.
I mean, Tori was happy enough. Like, he kisses her and then she likes it.
Yeah, she sells the whole like,
oh, I like
sort
it.
of looks off to the side. Like,
oh, I'm horny now?
Yeah, like I enjoyed that guy. He's strange, but...
I want a 14 times spanking. So then Flair leaves, but then he goes, I know, and comes back and gets his watch back. You're like, yes, Rick, good lad.
That was good.
We cut away to a really intense segment where they're quickly like, we need to go backstage, something's happening. And Goldberg's on top of Sid and punches him in the head. And security pulls him away. And then Sid gets up and just keeps going, let it bleed!
Yeah.
Let it bleed! Is that all you got, Goldberg?
That sounded like Paul McCartney there when he did that.
Let it bleed! Let it bleed! Oh, Jesus.
That was weird because you're supposed to believe that Goldberg absolutely dominated him. Like, Sid's a big guy and he's just on top of him, pounding him, and the guys around him are like...
Joe, Sid's power comes from his big black vest while he was wearing a red polo shirt.
That is very true, yeah.
And what I will say as well is, this is my only criticism of that, if I was going to be at a segment where I was going to bleed, I wouldn't wear red.
You'd want to see the...
You want to see the blood, you know, but like, it's like worn the one colour where you're like, is he bleeding?
I mean, you know, I'm going to be naive. That was real.
I assume so, because
obviously backstage segments
they reopened it during the match later, so I assume that was
and it was quite bad.
Yeah,
it was kind of that dark.
It was like a nasty looking.
It was that kind of dark. Yeah,
because it wasn't that he was. Certainly at that point he wasn't gushing blood, but it looked sore. You know, you could see the wound. Right up next, everybody's favorite wanker, Buff Bagwell, comes out.
I can't do this. Like, is he going to be on a lot?
Yeah.
I actually really, you know, we were joking earlier about Disco Inferno, and you know, this whole pay per view, I'm looking at everyone, I'm like, I really, really don't like him. Like, I don't like looking at him. I don't like seeing him wrestle. Yeah. I don't like hearing him talk. There's nothing. There's not he's not even funny or something. He's not like Sid, I don't overly enjoy, but I sort of find him ridiculous or something. You know? The
problem is, well, you can tell that, you know, those two new writers from New York.
Yeah.
Like Buff Bagwell.
And Buff Bagwell likes himself. Like, Disco Inferno looks like he thinks this is sort of shit.
Yeah.
But he's giving it his best, but he also can't be arsed giving it his best every night. He goes, some nights he'll give him a best. Buff Bagwell looks like he thinks he is like a world champion.
He
in
is
weighting
the
or
stuff,
something.
like-
yeah, like he believes. I mean, he's obviously in good shape, sort of, but you're like, he looks so crap. You know, he doesn't look like a muscle guy. He doesn't look like a cruiserweight. He sort of looks like, yeah, like he's got muscles, but on the brain of a child or something. Like
when he comes out, he's like, he looks slightly less ridiculous than he did in Nitro, but he's still got his fucking leather bandana.
Yeah.
Which, what is that?
I know.
Like, so they show a few, and I have to say this, frankly, they look deranged women who love Buff.
yeah, there's one of those women. You're like, you're one of those like Valium women or something. You know,
Yeah, you're insane. Like,
those
you're
New
popping
York-
pills a lot.
Yeah.
But do you know what it made me think of? Years ago, you and me watched a stand-up comedian do a terrible set on TV, and it showed a woman laughing in the audience, and you just went, shame, shame. And that's what I thought when I saw those women.
Hold me back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bagwell, first thing he does, complains about Russo and Ferrara, and I'm like, I don't like this whole, like...
Because what was he complaining that he didn't have a match? Or?
So Monday night, you remember that he lost, and he was raging.
Yeah.
He let La Parker kick him in the head,
Yeah.
you know. But he demands that Jeff Jarrett come out. So Jarrett arrives with a guitar.
Oh yes, Jeff Jarrett hit Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elizabeth on Monday night, yeah. So, he says he didn't.
I set up
But
her,
there was a guitar anyway. So
Yeah.
Bagwell clotheslines Jarrett out of the ring. They fight around the ring for a wee bit and then back in. And then the total package arrives. Not Lex Luger, the total package. They're very careful to never say Lex Luger, even though, like, it's fucking Lex Luger.
It's difficult. It must be really
weird.
hard for them.
It's weird as well, just because, like, he's been around for years. Why you chase his name not? You know.
Yeah. And what would happen if they did? Would they get some sort of lawsuit, or would it be all right?
No, he was Lex Luger in WCW.
It'd be fine. Because you might like an AEW, like Jim Russell called Brian Danielson Daniel Bryan, which is like fair play to him for not doing it all the time.
Yeah.
That's really hard to think.
Yeah, because
like,
they're so similar.
Brian Danielson, Daniel Bryan. Yeah, you know.
I don't know. Same way, actually, when Eric Redbeard appeared the first time, Chris Jericho could not stop saying Eric Rowan. Like, he really was trying. He really was trying, but he could not. Total Package comes out. He wants revenge for the attack on Elizabeth, so he grabs the guitar, swings it. Jarrett ducks. It hits Bagwell. Doesn't break.
It looks
sore. It looks sore. The guitar doesn't break, so Buff goes down like a sack of shit.
Yeah.
Like, it looks
What
like
hits him? The
I think it's the neck hits him.
Yeah. Which would probably be sore anyway.
And then Jarrett runs away, and a frustrated Luger, he then hits the guitar. So it didn't break on Buff's head, but it broke on a padded turnbuckle. What are the odds?
One thing that's good about Bobby Heenan and Tony Schiavone is when things go wrong in WCW, they refer to them. So they go, oh, he got him with the, you know, he calls it the handle or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's not the handle, it's the neck. But, or like when moves go wrong, they do go,
Yeah,
oh,
they don't try and pretend.
I love that in wrestling when they go, you know, because you know, people watch wrestling who don't watch that often, and they see someone mess up a move, you know, or bad wrestlers mess up a move, and they go, oh crap. Whereas it's just good if the commentator goes, he didn't get all.
Well, it feels more like a fight because everything isn't perfect. That adds to it. You know, you've turned a negative into a positive there, and it's like that's what they do. And it's, you know,
I think WWE maybe constricts them, because sometimes wrestlers, you know, whenever like Jeff Hardy or something hits that like willow in the wind or whatever, whisper in the wind or whatever, and misses or something, and then like the guy in the ring just goes, I better fall down. Or like, he didn't hit you, just improvise, do something, you know, like, you know,
100%.
Or it's like someone misses a drop kick, you're like, just go back off a bit and go, whoa, I dodged that. Don't like fall out of the ring. You know?
Yeah. So backstage, then Mike Tenay's like, oh, we're here with Sid Vicious who's getting stitched up. And then Sid Vicious like chases them away.
Yeah.
Again's like, let it bleed.
I know. So he let them stitch him, and then he went, actually, no.
Get out. And then elsewhere, Eddie Guerrero is in agony, so he gets on the phone and he phones Conan and Mysterio, like, you guys have to get back here.
Which is a cool scene because he's on the stairs. He's just like lying on the stairs.
Yeah, it's like, ugh!
Yeah.
It's like we're the trainer's too busy stitching up Sid, so there's nobody looking after him. So match number 4, which I have to say is my low light of the night, because it's so pointless.
Very boring.
Brad Armstrong against Berlin. So first of all, what I will say is Brad Armstrong has cracking music. It's like a Prince song or something. It's so.
But is it like about USA or something, or am I mad?
No, he was wearing a USA jumper.
The song,
and then there's some twat was like a love it or leave it.
I don't love it or leave it. I saw that. I was like, is that like that's the Brexit message almost?
It's like either leg it or fuck
either
off.
like all our customs or get out.
I just don't get the Berlin character.
No,
it's crap. What is it?
Is it like we've probably talked about before?
Yeah.
But is it like an East German thing or something?
I don't. Do you know? By the way,
Or
actually,
like
we talked last
music
time. We talked about him being on Louis Theroux. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I realized he wasn't called Berlin then, right? He goes, I used to be Alex Wright, but tonight I'm debuting as Alexander Wright. And you're like, Alexander Wright.
Yeah.
That's the whole new character. Oh, we say his full name now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like
he's supposed to be scary, foreigner, but he's not scary enough.
He's got the thing as well where like the wall's big. but he's not hugely tall. And Alex Wright is taller than what you think he is.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have the Shawn Michaels Diesel thing where it's
not
like a small guy with a massive bodyguard.
No.
The bodyguard's basically the same size.
Like he needs a fat bodyguard or something, like a big muscle.
I like what do you call him, Curtis Hughes or something like that.
Someone who like you go, well, look, he's meant to be, he's just chunky, a big guy,
But he's too big to be the little guy, big guy thing. It doesn't work. It's weird to me actually that he was a cruiserweight because you look at him, you're like, you're tall.
Big, he's a big guy, like terrible,
Well, I thought the match
actually, he's not terrible.
Was okay, but it was very basic. Like it was Berlin dominates early on. He does a nice wee powerbombs, a few nice powerbombs in this show. And then, did you notice, right? So this is another thing that WCW wasn't good at, of figuring out where the cameras are. So we see the back of the wall's head the whole time. The wall really should have been on the other side of the ring so that when the camera you see his face.
Yeah.
But did you notice that he had a wee like a wee cord for his glasses?
No.
Around the back of his head for sunglasses, like a granny, or like national health spectacles, that didn't have they didn't have legs. They were just those elasticated.
Yeah.
I was like, why would you not cut that off?
Why would you not make him look cool?
Yeah. I don't get it. So the finish basically is Berlin tries to do his awful reverse neck breaker finish, but Armstrong holds the rope and Berlin falls down, and then he pins him and beats him.
What was that?
I don't know.
Did Berlin find missing his move so sore? Supposed to believe that his finisher would hurt him too. If he misses it, well, if Brock does the F5 and the guy doesn't go and Brock falls, Brock was doing the full force of the F5.
Yeah, so he's dead now. He's dead now. So so
weird.
But also what's weird is maybe I was going to say that it kind of ruins the Berlin push, but then maybe the Berlin push is from the old writers and Russo and Ferrara don't see it. And they're like,
was he getting a bit of a push before?
Well,
the game,
he was.
sort of?
Yeah, but remember he debuted. He beat Jim Duggan, and he was meant to beat Buff Bagwell.
That was just his debut.
Yeah,
okay,
and
right.
he was on a winning streak kind of thing. But yeah, for some reason they went.
I don't
Brad Armstrong's the guy. Imagine if they'd done that with Goldberg's streak. They're like,
No.
Brad Armstrong should break the streak. That's the way to go.
Well, Berlin, I don't blame him. He is very boring as a character. It's sort of embarrassing. Well, I know wrestling's always a bit embarrassing about other races, but like Berlin, scary.
Yeah. I don't know when it happens, but he does revert to Alex Wright, the disco guy.
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe next year.
Okay.
I think he forms a team with Disco. I feel like that's...
Yeah.
And do you know what? That's about right.
Yeah.
Two silly dancing guys, So immediately after the match, the Wall attacks Armstrong and Berlin beats him up.
Yeah.
Got to get his heat back,
Yeah.
But you're also like, he lost to Brad Armstrong, who... I don't really know much about Brad Armstrong, but I can't imagine that he was a big deal.
No.
Competent enough wrestler, but they weren't pushing him like he was anything. Like that's... Yeah. I watched all the Nitros leading up to this, and he was an afterthought.
Even though you had the whole America thing, they didn't But
I think it was literally why would anybody care? So let's make him patriotic.
Yeah, you can never boo that guy,
No. So another promo backstage with Ric Flair.
Yeah.
So he cuts a promo to Filthy Animals and says he'll fight them anytime. It's quite a generic promo, but Ric Flair's just so good at promos.
He's absolutely brilliant.
I said earlier on about Booker T having fire. It's like that's what Flair has. It's like the stupidest fucking angle he can make you care about it because he's just so good at it. So
this is quite fun for me because I've never really watched Ric Flair.
Like prime Ric Flair. Yeah. Because he's 50 here.
Yeah.
And he's the best. I'd argue he's one of the best. I think he's one of the best things on the show.
Yeah. I've seen quite a few of Flair's matches in a way. But I've only seen them as standalone things, and I've never seen him do a promo. Really, I've seen him do the Charlotte promos or something.
The Nitro where he came back a few weeks before this was I think it was the night after Fall Brawl. He was great. He confronted Sting about turning heel and all. He was brilliant. He accepts the strap match with DDP and tells Paige that Kimberly loved Flair spanking her because she said, "Nature boy, I've never been spanked like that before.
Yeah,
you gave me the spanking my daddy should have gave me or something."
Daddy. There's probably something, someone could do someday where a book of Flair's promos written as they exactly were said, and it would be like some sort of mad poetry. Because there's something with Flair where he just keeps going or something like that, and he's in
as he gets worked up more and more woos out of nowhere.
He's in his Zen state. He's in
I get the fuss about Ric Flair because he's actually a guy who you watch his matches, they are all kind of the same, but he does about 6 moves, but they all work.
Yeah,
and he knows how to make his opponent look great. He does, and like I say, in his promos, he makes you care about nothing.
Yeah.
I watched all Nitros. I don't really understand what this DDP feud's about.
Yeah, is it not?
Other than that silly angle where he spanked his wife.
Before that, was it just about
I think they were in a match together, and it was just generic.
Yeah.
So up next is the TV title match. So it's Chris Benoit defending against Rick Steiner. There's a really weird thing Shivani says right at the start where he goes, "I will never get tired of hearing about that spanking. I could listen to it all night." And you're like, what an odd thing to say.
Especially Shivani Bobby the Brain's maybe supposed to say something like that, like a joke.
He's like, tell me more about spanking
tell
Kimberly.
me about that unconsensual spanking.
Yeah.
Can I rent the hotel room next to you next time? Like some sort of creep. Benoit's music's crap.
Oh, do.
Yeah.
But it's all like, yeah.
I was like,
There's loads of
yeah. I was like, I wrote down it sounds like a loading screen in a snowboard game or something. Like really
SSX tricky.
Yeah, very confused. It's like, is this a rock song? Is this a rap song? I know new metal was coming, but
it also has a
maybe
feel thing that they shouldn't have in entrance scenes, which is there's a break for a couple of seconds in the middle. It just stops.
That's what I mean. It sounds like you've gone and now it's going back around again. You're like you haven't clicked select character yet.
So Rick Steiner comes out. Now, I know I said it last time, but his glittery collar is very funny to me.
Yeah.
Because that's like what Paris Hilton bought her Chihuahua,
Yeah.
I thought, though, he looked leaner. I think he's lost weight.
Yeah, when he looked
quite trim.
He looked pretty good, yeah.
Do you know what? I thought this match was pretty good. I quite liked it.
I did enjoy it. Like, that's a kind of, especially like, definitely, they're better than this, but like a middle of a pay-per-view, I kind of want to see maybe like a normal wrestling match, like a couple of German suplexes and all that, and and see guys that you're like, I believe they'd be okay being in the middle of a, they're not stars or something, they're not like, they don't look like stars anyway,
But yeah, like Steiner does like really nice power moves at the start, and it's like, he just throws Benoit.
He's got a big good release.
Yeah,
I love a release German suplex. And then Benoit's got an amazing
the multiple Germans. Also, there's a bit where Benoit hits a superplex. I'm like, I just love superplexes because I was like, they look like they hurt.
Yeah,
and they also have the thing that actually a normal suplex has as well. It's like it doesn't have the daft thing where you're like that'll hurt you as much as him. Like obviously, it's going to hurt the guy coming from higher much more.
Yeah.
You know, way like a lot of moves, you're like, are you all right?
Yeah.
You actually look like you're taking the brunt of that.
The Spanish Fly. Sometimes I'm like, who's sore there? I'd probably rather land in my back than my front.
Yeah, totally. So there's a bit where Benoit attempts to put on the crossface and Steiner like bails out of the ring and then Benoit immediately charges to the ropes and like leaps on. I was like, that's now just like logical.
Good rhythm, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And also it puts over the crossface because Steiner, even Rick Steiner's like, I can't be on that fucking move.
And he's supposed to be Mr. like, Matt Wrestling.
Yeah. And then Shivani and Heenan talk a bit more about the spanking.
Mm-hmm. You said it on the last podcast. Sometimes I do like them as commentators, but sometimes the commentator and commentating WCW are like, pay attention to what you're watching,
especially on a pay per view. I totally get it. I totally get it on TV, especially you're going head to head with Raw. You want to keep people around, so you're like, oh, there's still this to come up, blah blah blah. But on a pay per view, just makes pay per views feel more special because you're like, this is important. This match,
even if you have to be quiet for a bit, I don't know.
I don't think there's anything wrong with like a bit of silence. That's it can work in the right moment. So the majority of the match is probably Steiner sort of working over Benoit. He gives him, as you say, a really good release German. He gives a couple of them, I think. Right, the finish, the referee gets bumped, so Steiner goes for a chair. I like this. Now, Benoit gets it off him. Steiner takes it back, and then Benoit just punches the chair into his face. And then he goes for the diving head bump, and Steiner puts the chair up.
I like that one. Did he do that one in WWE? That one where he falls. It's in the game. It's in some of the games. Weirdly, it's in like No Mercy or WrestleMania 2000. That like one where you can't see this in podcast, but he just puts his hands out and falls.
I doesn't jump because he's too close to him.
Yeah, and it looks great. I think,
because remember they do that in WWF. Actually, about 6 months later, that's crazy. Jericho holds up the Intercontinental belt, and Benoit
like jumps
on ahead and breaks his nose. Actually,
I know. He when they did the replay, I don't know if that was bad or not, but he definitely hit the chair.
Oh yeah. So Dean Malenko comes running out because he stuck the Revolution up his ass,
but weird clothes.
He comes out, grabs the chair, and he takes it. I think maybe Ben was a wee bit late getting up, so there was a bit too long where he was looking at Steiner.
You were like. I was like, he's going to hit Benoit.
And then he waffles. Yeah. Malenko rolls the referee back in the ring. Steiner wins, so he's the new TV champion. Yep. So Saturn then comes out. He's wrestled, but he's went and put his funny hat back on.
Yeah, he's like, I've got to wear this.
So he hugs it out with Malenko.
Yep.
So it turns out now the Revolution's still together, but Benoit's not a member.
They refer to Shane Douglas or something.
Yeah. So because he was getting surgery, so on his elbow.
And Benoit's gone in 6 months?
Unless they leave at the middle of January.
And is that why they broke that up? Or did they just break it up anyway?
No, they were breaking it up anyway. I think they were trying to make Benoit like a top face.
Okay.
So have him against the head stable. So we go backstage, interview with Bret Hart then. Mm-hmm. It's kind of bland, really. It's just like...
Don't like Bret Hart's look sometimes.
He's like
hockey gear and backwards caps. Yeah.
Hockey. So Tenay says doctors have told Hart not to wrestle because remember on Monday night, the Luger hit him with the baseball bat, so his ankle's injured. Hart says, I have no problem working hard. It'll be fine. It's short, it's fine. It's fine for one of this. So up next is the total package with Elizabeth against Bret Hart. And Elizabeth has recovered very well from her guitar shot.
Yes,
like she's not showing any effect whatsoever.
She's like, I'm glad that wasn't one of those real guitars.
Yeah, exactly. So his entrance is so over the top and silly. She pulls his shirt off.
He struggled to get his wee
trousers
his
off.
wee rip-ups. When you're in a disco in the 90s, you had your wee rip-ups on.
And he's doing his poses and all.
Yeah.
It's
horrible.
It's horrible. The colour of him.
The colour.
He'd obviously been to the tanning bed.
Yeah, he's obviously in amazing shape in a way for that kind of thing. But he must be very weak. Body fat's really low, isn't it?
4%.
Oh, is that what he says? Or is that what
that's like a 4% body fat.
You'd be a bit tired.
Cold all the time.
Yeah, maybe he is. And then he's wearing those rip-ups and he's taking them off. He's like, maybe that's why he didn't want to take them off. He's like,
Can I wear long pants, please?
But I just hate it. I think, some people you're like, that person looks great, really good shape. Some wrestlers you go, not being mean, but some wrestlers like CM Punk, you could do a wee bit of tightening up. You know what I mean? Obviously wrestling has changed so much, but I would look at somebody like Finn Balor and go, there's a guy in great shape. Yeah.
But or even like Bryan Danielson or guys like that.
Was Eddie Guerrero on roids?
No, I don't think at this stage.
He looks really good.
But I think when he gets to WWF, he bulks up a lot.
To me, that sounds weird. To me, he looks, I know this doesn't sound mental. To me, Eddie Guerrero looks bigger than Lex Luger. I know that sounds weird, but I think it's...
But he literally isn't.
I know, but it's because Eddie Guerrero's arms are big, maybe because and the rest of his body's not as big or something. Whereas Lex Luger is just a big muscle, so he actually looks skinny. That's the kind of thing you say about a guy like that, and then he goes mental. Those guys. But I don't know how to explain why those guys. I guess it's the low body fat. They almost look skinny or something. I know they're very muscly, but they also look skinny. I don't know what that is. I've got some.
This is a very confused thought.
I've got I don't know what. I think that is. I think it's because I go they're strong but weak at the same time. They're just not eating enough calories or something. I don't know. I don't know.
You've had one beer. So Bret comes out limping because he's much better at selling an injury than Elizabeth.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I am hurt.
Yep.
So the match is actually quite surprising because Bret is in charge the whole match.
I loved it.
I actually thought it was really good.
But then I don't know. We don't know when now, but the end.
Oh well, we'll get there. But it was one of those matches where the match is all storyline, so it's more like an angle in a way,
Yeah.
But
Bret was it was just fun to see Bret
dominating
someone. Yeah, no, kind of.
And do you know what it is about Bret Hart, right? Bret Hart does nothing fancy. He has no cool moves or but everything he does looks perfect.
And it feels logical, like you were saying earlier, about Guerrero. It feels like you would do that if you were a wrestler. You'd work someone a wee bit.
His punches, double axe handle.
He does a headbutt to his back.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's one of his. And then he's the.
Did he used to do it in WWE?
Yeah, yeah. And then he has his his 5 moves of doom.
Yeah.
Which is, I can't remember them all now, but there's the inverted atomic drop, backbreaker. Actually, maybe I can remember them all. A headbutt to the stomach. He does that. He opens the legs, headbutts. A double axe handle off the top and the sharpshooter. And you're like, and he did that in every match. But he's like, well, if those were the moves I was good at, it makes sense that I would do the same moves.
Yeah, people are like, oh, that's boring, but you would. You know?
Would, yeah. And I used to love the way he ran into the turnbuckles. He would run right at them because he's like, why would you turn around? That's not logical. Somebody throws you into the turnbuckle, you're not I better do a 180 degree turn.
If you can do the turn, you may as well stop.
Yeah. So, like I say, it's not fancy really.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels was a lot flashier.
Yeah.
But I'd argue Bret was better just because he everything was perfect and crisp. Yeah. Crisp, though, somebody said crisp is the word.
Crisp is a good word. I just had a thought there. I wonder if any wrestler anywhere in the world has ever done a whipped someone into the corner and the wrestler stopped before he got the corner and gone, that was the trajectory of your whip. They go, you did throw me a bit there, but
not far enough.
The
Irish whip doesn't really make sense. They always say that's the thing in wrestling that makes the least sense because somebody pulling your arm would not make you run.
Yeah. If you pushed me, I'd fall a bit, but it wouldn't just keep falling and go,
forever.
Oh, gotta fall till I reach the next solid surface.
Yeah. Speaking of Bret and Luger, actually, a perfect example of Bret doing things, whenever they were the joint winners of the Royal Rumble in 94, Bret timed it so that, and if you watch, they hit the ground at exactly the same time. He has it down,
Amazing.
you're like, it's so impressive. And like, I don't want to cast aspersions, but I imagine that wasn't Luger's doing.
No, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
He's one of those guys who's very competent.
Yeah.
But like, there's not a lot going on.
He can, you know, I wouldn't say
He can wrestle a match.
and he sold well for Bret Hart there, you know.
And he apparently had no problem just having his ass kicked for 10 minutes, you know. He gets like hardly any offense for like probably 80% of the match. What happens is Bret's trying to, and the announcers tell the story well actually, where they're like, he's trying to win quickly because he knows the ankle will give out at some point, so he needs to go full force. And he does tweak his ankle jumping off the apron, so then Total Package gets back into it. And then he basically just does a couple of basic moves on the ankle, sticks in a single leg crab, and then Hart has to tap out.
I mean, maybe that is good. I don't know.
Well, how do you feel about that? I like that, actually. I thought that was logical, but I can also understand you're like, no, I want Bret to win.
Yeah, no, maybe it was just being a bit like silly going, oh, I want to see Bret be like, oh, my ankle's sore, but I'm going to pull through to the win. But I suppose maybe logically there's nothing in that match, really. You know, he's not going to win anything, is he? Like, he's not, you know.
No.
So maybe he goes, don't need my ankle to be more fucked up here. I'm just going to tap out, you know.
Yeah. Well, at least I like the idea of like he tapped quickly because his ankle was injured. He wouldn't normally, but he had no choice. Because like Luger's never used a single leg crab.
I know,
like,
that's what I think it maybe took me, that's not bad. I think maybe it just took me by surprise. I was like, maybe.
Yeah, the match was not at all what I was expecting.
The rhythm, I was like.
I would go far. It was one of my better show matches of the night. Which, if you said to me, "Do you want to watch Lex Luger against Bret Hart?" I'd be like, "No, let's watch literally anything else."
Yeah.
You know.
But I think I thought maybe there was another 10 minutes in it or something. So I was like, "What?" You know?
Yeah, I'm short. Like it. Yeah. So we go backstage. Tanay is interviewing Goldberg, and he's like, "Do you think attacking Sid just made him angrier?" And then Goldberg says, "Like, I get paid to kick ass, and the next time I see Sid, I'm going to separate his head and his body." I'm like, "All right."
And the blood,
all right.
Do you notice the blood was still there from earlier?
Yeah.
And you're like, no one in the arena thought, we better clean that up.
Better give that a wee wipe.
That's stinking.
So, right, the next segment is weird. Medusa comes out.
Yes. Is that a real cologne?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is what's so confusing about this segment, right? This was the real WCW Nitro cologne.
Yeah.
And everybody reacts like it stinks.
And the Bobby Heenan's like...
No, she comes out and tries to...
He says it stinks before she doesn't.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's stinking that stuff.
He's smelled it before.
Yeah, and then she starts to... So the thing they're doing with her is like, remember she did the evening gown match on Nitro. It's like, they're trying to make her a woman, a diva type. She's like, I don't want to do it. I want to be a wrestler.
It's like, you have to do what they say.
Yeah. So she starts to advertise it, but then she gets annoyed and says, this is bullshit, and dumps it all over Heenan.
Yeah.
And she gives off about Russo and Ferrara because everybody's doing that. And then Heenan reacts like somebody's poured a bucket of piss over him. Like, he's so upset. And then he says, it smells like manure. He says, what she called it wouldn't even cover it. You're like, that's available to buy? Yeah. I don't get it. It's like, if that wasn't a real product, fair enough.
Yeah.
But you want, like, if I'm the fucking purchaser in Boots and I've just ordered 20 bottles of Nitro Cologne, I'll be fucking raging.
Yeah.
Like, what is that about? Why, like, it smells of piss and shit. And like, whenever he gets it poured over him, Shivani's going like waving his notes, trying to get the smell away.
Because it's fine if someone poured after you. Like if someone poured Paco Rabanne, you would be like, "Oh, that stinks," but not as bad. You'd be like, "That's too much." Like if someone poured after.
But he was saying that, like he's like, "I had a sniff of that backstage, and it smells like shit."
And they're like, "But this is our new product."
Yeah, fucking hell.
Did it sell well?
I would imagine fucking not.
Maybe before that.
I bet you, I could just see this happen. It's like somebody went, like, we need to push that cologne. Could you write a segment with it? And Ruth was like, bro, I got an idea.
Like you'd think, I don't know, they could have brought in another cologne, done that, and then he could have gone, I'm going to have to make myself smell better
with the Nitro Cologne.
The Nitro Cologne.
Yeah, not that shitty Smackdown Cologne.
Yeah.
Fucking brutal. Right. So up next is what was billed as the main event, but isn't. So it's Sting against Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight title. So Hogan's music plays twice.
So long.
Plays twice. He doesn't come out.
Yeah.
Now the only thing about that is we get to hear American Made in full, and I am a fan. They play it twice, nobody happens. So then they play Sting's music.
Yeah.
Sting comes out. He's all pissed off, and he takes ages to come out. Mm-hmm. It's as if he didn't know he was meant to be coming out. So then Hogan's music plays again, and then it takes fucking forever again for him to come out, and he comes out.
He comes out. Yeah.
But like
Still
he's
take ages.
not dressed to compete. I was going to say that he was wearing street clothes,
Yeah.
but I really hope he doesn't wear that in the street.
Yeah.
Like his big cross, because you know I'm Hulk Hogan. I love God and making money, and
he
I
wearing
hate doing jobs and black people.
Was he wearing
You
a
know?
denim vest?
Yeah, denim vest, but like a black denim vest
Yeah.
and blue denim jeans.
Yeah.
And
Timberlands or something?
And Timberlands and a black bandana.
Yeah.
And he comes out all like pissed off.
Yeah.
They get into each other's faces and talk, but they don't argue. It's kind of like they're just chatting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bell rings, Hogan lies down, and Sting pins him.
Yeah.
As soon as he gets the 3 count, Hogan gets up and leaves.
Yeah.
And an annoyed Sting. is
You
like-
know what this is about, do you?
Yes.
Okay.
So
are we going to find out?
So yeah, so then it gets confusing then because immediately after Sting's music's still playing and they start playing the promo
It
for
looks like a
Goldberg City.
mistake. I
Yeah.
thought it was a mistake.
And then in the middle of that, they cut back to the arena with it still playing,
Mm-hmm.
and then back to the video.
Did the fans in the arena see that promo playing?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was a mistake, or I thought I obviously knew that the match wasn't a mistake. I was
Yeah.
like, well, there's obviously something going on. But I thought, it's a pay per view. I don't know, maybe that's the kind of thing you do on a house, not a house show, on a Nitro or something.
Yeah.
Because you can, fans still go, oh, I've paid to watch this, and now I'm getting like,
Well, that's it. You,
I'm not
you
getting
would,
the
you
match.
would
See all those
imagine
kids- all the kids
there's
in the
people that
arena.
paid to see Sting and Hulk Hogan.
all
you
the
know?
see all the kids in the arena with all the Hogan t-shirts.
Yeah.
And you're like, I know you don't get guaranteed everything, but you're like, you've
But
paid.
they wanted to see the red and yellow, rips his shirt off,
Yeah.
does the Hulk. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah. So I was very confused, obviously, but
So, right, this is basically the plan. So, it also doesn't work because they basically did that angle on Monday night with Buff Bagwell. Somebody lying down.
lying down, yeah.
So, right, Hogan had a knee injury, and this was to write him off, right?
Yeah.
But the plan was to make it look like a shoot. So, what they were trying to get across was, and they totally failed to get this across, that Hogan didn't want to lose this thing.
right.
And the only way that he would lose is did that. He's like, fuck you, I'll lie down, right?
What did he say to Sting in his ear then?
Oh, as if like, well, brother, I'm just going to lie down, and Sting's like, oh, do you have to? He's like, that's what I'm doing, right? So,
Yeah.
so
Sure, Sting could have picked him up and punched him or something.
I know. So,
made him
or even
fight.
give him a scorpion death drop or something. But anyways,
Humiliate
the
him,
idea
yeah.
is like he's like, all right, fine, I'll lose, but only technically. Like I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So the plan then was in the new year he would come back under his real name. He wouldn't
Right.
be Hulk Hogan. He'd be Terry Bollea.
Okay.
And this is all from Meltzer, but I'd say this is probably true. And he would come back as like a Steve Austin style, like anti-hero, anti-authority, cut promos,
Kind of
like in a
mentioned
kind of
nailed it.
shoot style.
Yeah.
And then to make it worse, so the problem with that is, right, 90% of people who watch WCW don't know that Hogan has creative control.
Okay.
So, because it's not like now where everybody can look at the internet. Nobody was reading dirt sheets, the typical fan wasn't. So it's not clear what happened. And then to make it feel more like a shoot, they instructed the commentators never to explain it, and it was never mentioned again.
I'm so confused.
And by the time that Hogan came back, Russo was gone. So
It just was a moment of like,
so
straight-
yeah, so
like
and that's why they cut to that promo in the middle to make it look like, oh, we're scrambling, and that's
is
why
what-
Sting took a while to come out to make it look like it wasn't planned like that.
didn't feel like that. Obviously,
No.
it felt like an actual mistake.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like.
But that's what they wanted you to think it was an actual mistake.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like you watched it there, and until I said about the creative control thing, you
Yeah.
hadn't clicked why Hogan was lying down. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense,
Yeah, at all.
So if you don't know anything about that,
Yeah,
that makes no
I'd say-
fucking sense.
And there were the fans in the arena chatting bullshit.
Yeah, they were booing like mad. Like fortunately, actually, they put it at the right place in the card, because if you put that on last, people would have went fucking mental.
Yeah.
Now, also what I don't like is later on Sting comes out for a promo. He should have just done that promo here. Why did they like?
Yeah, he comes out again. I know.
I think there's a problem with you see people too much on a show.
And I think that makes it not feel like a pay-per-view. Like I'm more than happy to tune into an episode of like Dynamite or something, or Raw or something. You see someone like 4 times in a night. You maybe see them at the start, the middle, backstage, and then you see them in their match.
Yeah.
That's fine. But in a pay-per-view, you're like, pay-per-view ideally you just want like 12 matches.
The first time that you see Ric Flair should be either a promo backstage or Ric
backstage-
Flair coming out for his match.
Backstage is fine, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a promo in the ring.
But it's like, I've watched a few Nitros lately where they have the problem where like the filthy animals, they all come out together if one of them's wrestling. But there's times where there's maybe 2 matches in a row that has a filthy animals
Yes,
member.
they're
So
right.
then
Yeah.
they go backstage and then immediately come out again with the music, and you're like,
even
they're-
if they've lost or they're
Yeah,
injured,
it's
they
just-
come out. Yeah, you're like, I don't mind a wrestler coming out and doing like a promo in the ring before his match. Maybe that's all right as well. But like, you don't want them just to come out to do a promo, and you're like, is that it?
Yeah.
you're way back there.
So, and like we said, if you paid to see Hulk Hogan,
Yeah, which I think there was the cut across the crowd.
I mean, it's Hulk Hogan.
You're talking
there's-
probably at least 30% of the crowd, maybe,
Yeah.
that kind of, there's a
Yeah.
lot of Sting masks in the crowd, which actually on children is very scary. When you see a wee child Sting, you're like, that is haunting.
That is horrible.
Expressionless.
So up next then, they go straight then to the United States title match, which is Sid Vicious just defending against Goldberg.
Yeah.
So Sid still has his wee cut. For weeks they've built this as like a big thing, and the crowd reacts like it's a big thing. Like this is probably the crowd at their loudest all night. Really.
I know. I was wondering how they like flipped that like the crowd were so angry,
and I think that's what they did. They went, we need to put on the match that they really care about.
Yeah.
So Goldberg gets a really long entrance. I'll have to say, makes him look like $1 million. Like the whole, like, you know, the walkthrough, and he's got the security detail bringing him down. Although then, when he's halfway down the ramp, the outsiders come out and attack him, and the cops just look.
Yeah, I was like, what are they for?
Yeah,
are they protecting us from him? You know what I mean?
And your man Doug Dillinger, the fucking head security, he's just like, got me.
He laughs. Yeah, that guy laughs a lot. That guy's around the side of the ring all the time anyway. Yeah. You know, obviously, he organising the whole security of the whole arena. But he laughs at like someone kick. I don't know if it's in that segment, but he definitely laughs at someone fighting outside the ring.
You're like, what are you doing? I seem to remember Eric Bischoff saying like he was a guy that he couldn't fire, but he really wanted to. He's like, he's so useless, you know.
But what are those cops walking beside Goldberg? Are they like, Goldberg's dangerous?
Well, they're meant to be like a security detail, but like
that would protect him and us.
Yeah, but also you'd like to think a cop, if you assaulted somebody, if a cop wasn't there for that purpose, they'd be like, oh, I should probably break this up.
Say there's like a murderer pedophile being led to court, and you run out and punch him, the cops probably stop you. They don't go,
hold on, sorry, a murderer pedophile?
I was just thinking like what one would be kind of dangerous that a cop would protect, you know. I don't know.
But why pedophile?
Because anger, you know.
Is it a child cop? Why would it be dangerous?
People are angry at him, you know. You don't attack a murderer, you go, he's best left alone. Even if he killed your whole family, like he's best left alone, he's scary. Whereas a paedophile, you go, you have to do something so your kids know you love them. Okay, so the Outsiders knock Goldberg down, taunt him, and leave. Like, that's a nice night of work for the Outsiders. I really don't like them too. Like, I don't.
that Nitro we watched there was just, it was torturous.
It's Scott Hall in a bad place at this time.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That's all right, because I thought...
apparently so was Kevin. This was the point where Kevin Nash was separated from his wife, who he later got back together with. You're like, you're doing the middle-aged, nudie, single man thing where you're trying to be class.
They look like, like two of your dad's embarrassing mates.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Scott Hall does that wee finger thing, like, oh, I'm bad or something. Yeah. Like, you look horrible. You know, you look pearly. I know he's always had stubble, but he looked bad.
He looked like, he wasn't intending to have that much. But like, it's also, I'll tell you this, actually, I read this, because before every episode I read the Wrestling Observers from like that period, you know, just to see if there's anything I want to mention. And I get like the attendance and things like that. Thanks, Meltzer. I mean, I'm paying you for it, but like, you know, still. But it's just interesting to read like news bits from the time and stuff, you know. But anyway, apparently at the time, the plan was, you know, Mark Madden?
Yes.
Yeah. That awful commentator. Yeah. Well, the plan was to do a weekly hour-long variety show with him, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash, and it nearly happened around this time.
Variety of what?
Like, you know, like a talk show. So can you think of anything worse than an hour of them?
Yeah. Like, Kevin Nash is sort of smart, isn't he, or something?
Well, Kevin Nash is cool now, I would argue. And Scott Hall's pretty cool now, unless he's talking about Paige. But, like, like, the way they got on Nitro was just groan-inducing. Like,
I think Kevin Nash is a bit annoying, though. Even now, because I'm like, he thinks he's cooler than he is, or something. I don't know. He's always been a bit like, I know he's in Magic Mike and everything or something like that, you know, like he is big sexy or whatever you call him. But someone's like,
would you say, like, he's called big sexy? Would you say he's a sexy, like in the 90s, he's not sexy? He's kind of a good looking older guy now.
Maybe women like the whole, you know, he's very tall, obviously, like really tall. And he is pretty, what's that word? When someone's a bit rough, but in a nice way, you know, like kind of, not a rogue, like I don't know what the word is. But yeah, he's a handsome guy, I suppose. But that long hair was always quite embarrassing, I thought.
Well, he also...
Never, like, it was too straight.
Yeah. The thing I remember as well is, at this time, so he was separated from his wife, so he was dating one of the Nitro girls, I think it was Chai, who was Korean. Mm-hmm. And he closed the promo, and he's going, I'm away out here to eat a little Korean.
No.
Awful. So... back to the match. So we got way off there. The Outsiders knock down Goldberg, and then they leave. So Sid fights. They fight around the ring for quite a while. Goldberg then reopens Sid's cut with punches, and he hits his head off the guardrail, and then he's really bleeding. Like, he's properly gushing at that point. The crowd's the loudest they've been all night. Yeah. Apart from they were booing the Hogan Sting thing. But that's... I think because this has been the main, even though it wasn't for the world title, this has been the main story for a month, you know?
Yeah. Goldberg's always the big story, isn't he? Sort of.
Yeah, kind of. People just care about it. So there's some cool moments in this. Like, there's a bit where Sid gets back in control and he puts in a camel clutch. Yeah. And like, he's like, as he's talking, he's spitting blood.
Oh, yeah,
and he has Goldberg, and the crowd chanting Goldberg, and he does the thing, and he's like, shut up, and there's blood everywhere.
And Goldberg's sounding like you're almost like, he could pass out or something like that.
And then there's a bit where Goldberg picks Sid up on his shoulders, like the mad eyes.
Yeah, Bobby says, like, look at those eyes, and you're like, look at those eyes. Yeah. Like, that's...
And because that's a really good, the white of the eyes and the red all around him, you know. And then like the electric chair, you know, where he stands up with Goldberg stands up with Sid in his shoulder. Sid's huge. Like, it's a pretty slow match, but I actually think it works quite well as like a story.
And were you happy with the finish?
Well, so I'll explain why I didn't like the finish later, but this kind of story is basically, it makes, even though Sid loses, it makes him look scary because Goldberg can't keep him down. Like every time he's gushing blood, he's been bleeding for hours, actually, and he keeps getting up no matter what Goldberg does. And there's a bit where they're in the corner, and like Goldberg's covered in blood at this point as well.
Goldberg's got quite, it's kind of gross.
Yeah. Sid keeps fighting back in the corner, and Goldberg hits him over and over again. The referee asks Sid, does he want him to stop the match? And Sid says no, and then drops to his knees. Yeah. Goldberg keeps hitting him, and then the referee's like, he lifts the arm, he's like, he's not responsive, so the match is over. Which I believe is called a technical knockout. Like UFC or something, so the referee's like, he's not defending himself anymore.
He hasn't said, I want to stop, but
I'm going to stop it because he's done, you know. Yeah. Like it's like in UFC, if you're not putting your hands up anymore, they'll stop the match because they're like, you're too out of it to know to defend yourself, so that's how you'll end up seriously hurt.
Didn't he ask Sid, like, where are you or something? Or, you know, all those classic.
Do you know where you are? And he didn't know. So Goldberg wins by blood stoppage and wins the title.
Which is unique.
Yeah, well, it used to be years ago, blood stoppage meant the title didn't change hands.
Right.
It used to be a really old, like, trope of like territory wrestling. Bruno Sammartino did this all the time, where he'd be attacked by the heel a couple weeks before the match, and then Bruno would get so angry that he would batter the heel, but the heel would bleed so much that the referee would stop the match.
Oh, the heel had the belt in that territory?
Yeah, or well, maybe not even, but it was like then you didn't beat him, the match was stopped.
Gotcha.
You know, but it makes more sense to change the belt because you beat him. You know, Sid lost that match.
Albeit there is a wee shitty element where you're like, well, he beat him, but Goldberg beat him backstage.
Yes, that's the other thing. You know,
it's like he didn't.
If that had all happened in the ring, you'd be like, well, he won the fight, but yes, you're right. He jumped him backstage.
You know, it's maybe that's protecting Sid. I don't know.
And then, like, the moment, so Rick Steiner comes out, and Sid wants to keep fighting.
Are they mates or something? Are they?
They have been teaming together. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Sid wants to keep fighting, which again makes him look like a badass. But Steiner stops him.
He wipes him, and then he's like, "I want to go back."
Yeah, and then for some reason, Goldberg doesn't really want the title. Like the referee tries to give it to him, and he doesn't want it. And you're like, why does everybody hate the fucking title? What's going on? Why should we like for fucking belt?
There's no like, you know, emotional.
Hulk Hogan didn't even want to win it.
Yeah.
He's like, just lie down.
There's no emotional like, oh yeah, you know. Yeah. Like, Goldberg's not like, oh finally, you know. He's like, I'm still annoyed at Sid or something. And you're like, well,
but you're annoyed at him when you've taken his belt and beat him. That's like, you know, I don't know. So what did you think of the match then?
Well, I thought it was like I was a bit dissatisfied by the finish, but actually on reflection, I'm like, it was pretty good. If that makes sense.
I wouldn't do that on a regular basis, but I think it's like a one-off.
But it worked
because I
think I was frustrated that he was bleeding backstage, but that's just the way it is.
They don't do this, but I'm like, this feels like you're going to build a rematch.
Yeah.
Where like the match can't be stopped for any reason, or like, you know, because like the Starrcade in December, which is the big show that you're like, well, are you building the Goldberg Sid for the title or something? You know, but it's a more violent or a cage or something, you know, but they don't do that. So,
well, I think for me, I'm like, if Sid was a face and Goldberg was a heel, that would have been a better, you know, that's just a better finish because you're like, well, he attacked him backstage.
Yes.
He's weakened him and, you know, he double weakens him. So it did feel like you're saying like Sid was kind of facey coming out, being like, I want to.
Well, like Sid doesn't look bad. He is what he's meant to be. Okay. But he doesn't look bad by losing there because he, you know, he wants to keep fighting even when his body won't let him.
Yeah.
You know?
Whereas Goldberg, like bleeding him, he should maybe like done a couple of moves on him and beat him like with a pinned him. But then it was interesting though.
Yeah. But like I said, it's something I wouldn't do that again for like a year.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it kind of works. So, right. So up next, before it looks like we're going to get the strap match, the Ric Flair DDP match. So we get a quick recap of the hotel room stuff. And actually, the audio's better in this one, so I've now figured out what happened.
Right.
So she had pills to drug David Flair. She says that this will knock him out.
Yeah.
But on the Nitro, you couldn't hear what she was saying.
I thought it was his pills.
Yeah, so I thought it was Flair's Viagra. Because then she says, I love how enthusiastic you are. So I thought it was like, oh, he's got Viagra.
Do you mean because he's showering?
I don't know.
You're cleaning yourself?
So, so basically the plan was to knock out David Flair. And then instead, Ric Flair turned up and spanked her loads. I don't know why David...
Flair, like, I didn't notice it last time, but he jumped on the bed and bounced back up. I was like, that's not the first time you've done that.
No, he's a big silly man. He's like, the loving Kimberly herself. He's quite like, he reminds me of like Little Richard sometimes. You know, that kind of, whoo! Then instead of the entrance we're expecting, Sting comes out again. And this is the one I meant where like, why did he not just do this after the match with Hogan?
Because his music plays. Yeah. And it's like,
comes out, he says he didn't come to Vegas for a night off and he wants to fight later on tonight. And if anybody wants to face him, you know, they should come out later. Then he leaves. And now it's time for the strap match.
Yeah.
So DDP is still wearing the sparkly shirt. By the way, for the record, like, his hair is dreadful.
I like it.
Will you have a mullet?
Yeah, I like the whole complicated, it's like dye.
It's like slightly longer
got an
version of
undercut.
Sid's.
Yeah, and he's got Sid's hair is horrible, like, but he's got an undercut done there or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like it. It's a bit tragic for his age, you know what I mean? Like, he's a bit old, sad for his age. It's a bit of a young man's hair, it's a bit like...
Yeah. But I mean, there must be something very appealing about Paige because, like, he has a hot wife, like, who's a lot younger than him.
in real life?
No, Kimberly was married to him in real life.
Oh, she was his real wife?
Yeah.
Okay. And who's he married to now?
They divorced like 20 years ago. They were married for years, like before he was in wrestling, when he was like in a nightclub.
Oh, right. So he got her into wrestling?
Yeah.
Cool.
So...
he's not bad looking or something. He's kind of like an ugly Brian Pillman or something. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I want to see DDP wrestle a pencil.
like
Do you know what?
Like,
He'd lay that match out in advance and it would be all right.
It'd be all right. DDP for me, always growing up, was like, he's
all right.
Yeah, like, he's fine. I don't know why he's here, but he's here. But Sid, like, there's loads of people who are really ugly. Like, DDP's all right. Goldberg's not winning DDP.
I think Goldberg, though, suits like the grey beard. I think Goldberg looks good as an old guy.
He looked great for his age.
Yeah.
I mean, what age is he?
54 or 5?
Yeah, I mean, he looks great, yeah.
Right, so Flair comes out in his lovely robe. I always love a wee Ric Flair robe. Looks intense. He puts the strap on and, like, swings it at Paige. He won't let him put it on for ages. That goes on for like a full minute before Paige puts it on. I don't actually think I've ever really seen a strap match that I really liked. I think it's a bit of a weird gimmick.
I think I've seen no strap matches since I've been an adult wrestling fan.
Yeah, like I remember The Rock and Triple H had one in 99, which was all right.
Do you think as a child, though, they're a bit boring because you couldn't see any, like, off the top? Or, they're a bit...
Yeah, probably.
Like,
I mean...
Whereas actually they're kind of like an old school wrestling.
Yeah, it's the old, like, the heel keeps running away.
Yeah.
So now we're tied together. So actually in this feud, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Same way the cage started as the idea of, like, you can't get away from me now. It wasn't meant to be the winner escapes the cage. It was meant to be you're trapped in this cage.
The thing about the strap match, I guess, then was it's supposed to relate to spanking. They didn't spank each other. They didn't go like, there wasn't a moment where, like, DDP got him and spanked him. Or
maybe they should have had a match where they have to clasp hands the whole time. It's like as a reference to the spanking. The fight into the crowd, and Flair whips DDP a couple times. And I was like, "There's audience members right there. That's really dangerous." Like,
there's a couple of things in this whole event where, like, I can't remember who it was. It might be in the next match or it might be in the previous one. Someone was definitely thrown into a rail, and a fan had his hand. You can see a fan pull his hand away and go like, the wrestler's back landed on his hand. Which, not the worst, but weak pins.
So Flair then kisses Kimberly because he's fucking feral. He's had a great night, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's a creep.
He is, like, but see what it was, Tori liked it, so he was like, maybe she'll like it.
Yeah, he's like, to be honest, they'll seem happy. I don't see what the problem is.
So then Flair runs into the guardrail and he starts bleeding a lot.
Yeah.
Classic Ric Flair fashion. Now, he didn't have permission to bleed, right? What happened was,
was this for the fining area, was it? Oh.
Yeah, well, standard practice just weren't happening. So apparently what happened was, right, they knew they wanted to stop the Sid match through blood loss. So blood was very important. So standard practices said, fine, you can do that, but that can be the only blood on the show.
Okay.
Right? And they went, okay, fine. But then the problem here is Flair's bleeding more than Sid was. And they don't stop the match. So there's a real...
He's got that energy.
Yeah. But Rick just loves bleeding.
Well, I said, like, I never liked Ric Flair bleeding, ironically, even though he bleeds a lot. Because for me, whenever Ric Flair bleeds, his hair gets too bloody.
Because he's got that white hair.
It looks like, those dogs when they get the wee dirty eyes?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what kind of dog it is, but they're cute. But then they look up at you and go, why is you sick? Like, but permanently, they get like a brown liquid that comes out of their eye and it stains their fur. Yeah. And it's permanent sometimes, like it would stain their fur.
Well, you'd have to shave it off
and then regrow
again. Yeah.
And you look at them and you go, oh, I'm sad for you.
See, that's how you feel for Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, it's all in his hair.
Ric Flair often gets in trouble for blood. Like he bladed at WrestleMania 8 when he wasn't meant to, and Vince was finding out. He also, in like 2005, was facing Randy Orton, and he said he was going to make him bleed like a virgin, and then he punched his head and then threw blood into the audience.
No, did he? Did it hit someone? Probably.
I don't know, but like
Randy Orton's blood or his own?
His own blood. He punched it because he's bladed so many times. If he just hits his head a couple of times, he'll start bleeding.
Seriously?
Yeah.
He's got like a pouch or something.
Yeah. It's just so scarred.
He's
like Dusty Rhodes or Mick Foley or
I didn't know it was that. I didn't know the skin became so vulnerable to I mean, I knew you bladed and then it, immediately, started. We should blade on this podcast sometime.
Just do the podcast, see how we feel. At what point do we start to get faith? Probably about the time Buff Bagwell's just over like, oh, we'll have to call it there, lads. We're just too weak. They climb onto the commentators table. DDP, they don't go through it though. DDP just whips Flair on it and then poses, and then he like thrusts his dick at the audience.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of that since Russo came in.
A lot of
I got your championship right here.
Yeah, like
whatever,
jacking and whacking.
Yeah,
and
spanking it.
Yeah.
There's a nice wee bit where Flair has DDP in the corner and he lifts his legs up and just punches him in the dick.
Yeah.
That's great.
And DDP really goes like, he rolls his eyes back and goes like,
oh, he does proper like cartoon, like, DDP's, they're both quite hammy guys, so it works,
Yeah.
So then Flair puts the strap around DDP's throat and locks in the figure 4. So DDP keeps like almost passing out and then kicking, because of the 3 count from and that kind of, I think that works. When they break it, so then he low blows Flair twice because his dick's so big, once isn't enough. He puts the strap around Flair's throat and then chokes him and then hits the diamond cutter.
Yeah.
And then the finish is really weird. Charles Robinson counts 2.
But doesn't want to.
Doesn't count. Yeah, I can't figure out what was happening there because I wondered. Right,
it seemed confusing.
Yeah, because then he didn't count, and the commentator's like, "What happened there?" And then they ring and he says, "Ring the bell."
He says, "Ring the bell."
Yeah. So
is there any wrestling theories?
No. Well, right. So what I wonder is, was that not the planned finish? And then Robinson's like, "I'm not meant to count 3 here."
Yeah.
Right. Or whenever Ric Flair was the heel insane president early in the year, Charles Robinson was Little Nate, who wore a robe and was like his personal referee.
And they did refer, like, he cried obviously later in this.
Yeah. So then I thought, right, is what happened here is he wouldn't count the 3. DDP then looked at him as in like, I'll fuck you up, and he went, okay, fine, we'll just call it.
We'll ring the bell.
But like, DDP's the heel, so
that would be, Ric Flair having his own ref. Yeah.
I don't get it.
I was confused, as someone, I was like, maybe there's something I don't know about, but it looked like a mistake again. It looked like, oh, he meant to hit 3, and then he went, well, it's 3, so just ring the bell. You know, which is flat. Yeah. It's always flat, even in the biggest match. And a weird count. You're like, it's just how vulnerable wrestling is.
Well, like, do you remember the WrestleMania main event, the Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Ronda Rousey one?
Yes,
where Ronda's shoulder was up, but the referee counted and hesitated for a bit, and you're like, it just totally
took the
momentum out of the finish.
Becky winning, was it?
Yeah. So then after the match, an angry DDP hits Robinson with the diamond cutter, which makes me think then it was meant to happen because you wouldn't build that in.
Because obviously that definitely meant to happen.
Yeah. So
and he took that very well.
Charles Robinson takes good bumps.
He does.
DDP gets the strap, keeps choking David. Keeps choking Rick.
Yeah.
David runs out with a crowbar, and Kimberly just stands in front of him.
Yeah.
Distracts him, kicks him in the dick, and takes the crowbar, which means then DDP hits Flair in the dick with the fucking crowbar.
To be fair to them, obviously, he just hits the mat.
Yeah.
But that takes some, you get that wrong. Because I feel like when wrestlers hit each other, they probably protect each other, obviously protect each other. But whenever they maybe are told, just hit mat beside me, whenever someone like Triple H smashes the steel steps with his sledgehammer and someone pulls their head out of the way, you're like, he's going full pelt on that steel step. If you don't move, you're fucked.
You're fucked. That's the end of you.
So if he hits him in the dick, that's, I mean,
Space Mountain would be closed for repairs.
Who was it? Tommy Dreamer got hit with a kendo stick or something. He pissed blood for a week or something, 2 weeks, because they really hit him with a kendo stick in the balls.
Brutal. DDP then beats up David too.
What about that diamond cutter? David Flair thinks it's a stunner or something. He drops his knees. Yeah. And it's really clunky.
And then he kicks him in the dick.
Yeah.
But David Flair is I understand there's there's a lot of pressure on him. He's one of the best wrestlers of all time, son.
Yeah.
But you're like, this isn't for you, mate. You haven't got.
Yeah,
you haven't got.
He looks sad.
Yeah,
but he does. He has a wee face of I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, how did you find the match generally?
Do you know what? I liked it a lot but then I actually think I like DDP a lot. I think I do. Yeah. I think he reminds me of, could be nostalgia. He looks like what a wrestler looks like or something. You know what I mean? He looks.
Yeah. Oh, he's like a big silly looking man.
Yeah.
It's like Perry Saturn's wee hat and shirt.
Yeah.
You're like, you've went, I am an inherently ludicrous person, and thus I will
double down on it. Yeah,
100%.
I'm not even really sure what DDP has to offer in the ring. Sometimes I'm like, that diamond cutter is not bad, but I'm not even sure what else he does.
Not really. He
doesn't really do anything.
He does that cool. He actually didn't do it in this match. In the clothesline where they spin his leg around, he turns and clotheslines, which is the one.
Right, that kind of yeah. But I just always find him. I guess I always kind of believe him or something. He is DDP or something.
Yeah. Well, that's his real wife, and you're like, well, if you can get her, he's probably all right.
Yeah.
So a medical crew comes out with a stretcher. They put Flair in a neck brace. And then Shivani does a really weird thing. He's like, don't know when they put it. He choked him. His neck won't be hurt. And he went, oh, or maybe it will. So they put him on a backboard. David does a really bad job of pretending to cry.
I know. They're like, he's crying.
Like,
Lil Nate or whatever. Charles Robinson's probably
crying.
Because he's crying. He's like, I fucked that tap out.
They take him backstage, but before he's put in the ambulance, the filthy animals arrive and attack him. Ray's knee looks totally fine now. Kidman's filming the whole... Or Tori's filming it on the kid cam.
Yes.
They beat Rick up, chuck him in the ambulance, and then drive off with it, right?
Yeah.
So... I'd say Flair didn't have authorization to bleed, but this was him being written off for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So he's away to like February. But the next night, they show what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the kid cam footage, and they bury him in the desert.
Understand?
Well, you don't actually see them do it, but it's like they drag him out of the desert, he's being dragged, and like then that's what they say they did, they buried him alive.
Hard to bury someone in the desert, wouldn't it? Yeah. You'd have to dig, but then the hole would refill all the time. You'd be like, you dig soil, you're like, you lift it out, you throw it away, but sand, you're like, it would just keep falling in on itself. You'd be like,
so yeah, he's buried in the desert.
That's why the pharaohs, their graves are above. You know, they're like, that's why they build pyramids. They're like, I can't bury this guy. It's fucking impossible. Keeps refilling.
So that's the end of that segment. I actually think it kind of worked. Like, I don't like the burying thing of it, but the filthy animals like attacking it made them. But the problem is they can't decide whether the filthy animals are good guys or bad guys. They're like they're total heels. Like, make them dicks. Like
Eddie Guerrero, I guess, is a cool heel, but Conan or maybe Ray's but Conan and Kidman are definitely dicks.
Yeah, I think the problem is really that they're miscast as heels. Yeah, but if you're gonna do this gimmick, they are bad guys. There's not,
I did like was it this pay-per-view actually where Eddie was like, "You're calling me a thief?" earlier on. I like that
with his gold Rolex.
Yeah, I like that. I do. That's what I mean. He is a face, isn't he? You know.
Yeah, he's silly, you know. But and that's the problem as well, because they're so over the top and kind of getting winning all the time. And all, people are cheering.
They're
them.
quite enjoyable.
So it's like DX was a heel group, and then they turn face.
And Ray's moves are facey.
And shooting star press and all, they're all moves they're too good of wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know? Right, so then it's main event time. So Sting comes out again, microphone in hand. He's like, "It's showtime. Who is it going to be?" I don't know why I'm doing Scott Hall. Where is the big guy?
That sounds like Al Pacino.
Hoo-ha! So Goldberg answers the challenge, and the crowd goes apeshit. Like, that's the loudest, because they're like, fucking Goldberg's going to have a world title match. So apparently they were tight on time by this point.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so the match was shorter than planned, but I actually think it works as a wee short match. I think it was fun.
Do you know, it was the first match of the night that I cared about or something. You know, it was like, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, I hope Sting wins here. I was really nervous because I knew he wasn't going to, but I was really nervous.
Well, it's confusing though. There's no referee for some reason.
Aye, and Sting leaves the ropes. And the crowd kind of boo because he's chickening out, but he's not. He's just like, where's the referee?
Yeah. And then the announcers specifically say, well, whoever's going to be, it'll not be Charles Robinson. He's too beat up. And then Charles Robinson comes out immediately. So, like, maybe this was a genuine production. I know they're trying to sell, like, this match wasn't meant to happen. But even in kayfabe, 20 minutes ago, Sting said, I'm going to have a match later. So have a fucking referee ready. It's so weird.
It's not a hard. Yeah.
So Sting does a nice splash that Goldberg powers out of.
Yeah.
He then does a spear on Goldberg that actually is a good spear.
It's a good spear, yeah.
But Goldberg gets up and does the side kick to the head.
Gets up really quick, yeah, I know.
Goldberg misses a spear, hits the ring post. Mm-hmm. Sting then hits 3 stinger splashes, and Goldberg collapses. I love the stinger splash.
Love it.
Such a simple move.
Especially the way he did these ones. Like, I thought they looked great.
Yeah. They actually look best when it's a big guy that he's landing on, because they can like take the full impact, you know. So then Sting runs at Goldberg. Goldberg leapfrogs over him, which is always like, remember when Lesnar leapfrogged over Goldberg? That was unbelievable. I was like, this. It always looks good when you get a big guy jumping.
Yeah.
So then he spears Sting, jackhammer 1, 2, 3, and the crowd does go nuts. Like, they're like, Goldberg's, because as we said last time, Goldberg is the star, you know, and people want to see him. And with Hogan gone and Flair gone now, you're like, well,
not a bit of a shitter for Sting now.
Well, it's a bit of a shitter, yeah.
Sting not a star, sort of.
Well, he is, but he's a heel. Okay. So, although part of the plan here was to turn him face again, and that's why he's been like a fighting champion.
Okay.
So after the match, Sting complains to Charles Robinson and hits him with Scorpion Death Drop. He's had a fucking terrible night.
I know, and he really goes, when he pulls him back like that.
And then the show just ends there. Yeah. Right? It's really abrupt. So, what do you think of the main event?
Well, I suppose, you know what, I'd have to give it a big thumbs up because I was nervous. You know, it was like, it made me believe. I was like, well, what's going to happen?
So, Goldberg's new champion, right? He was given the belt. He's announced new champion. What?
He doesn't have the other belt.
No, he didn't even bring it out. Well,
you're like, you know, you end the show. Maybe
hold the two belts up like the Daniel Bryan thing. Yeah.
You know, I'm like, then I could say the end of the show was Sting. You're like, he lost.
Yeah, so strange. So, but Goldberg is not the new champion. Right? So the next night, Sting comes out and says, I said I was going to fight. I never said I was going to do another title match.
Because that was confusing the way the commentators were like, I guess this isn't for the belt. And
then they announced him as a new champion.
And then Tony Schiavone and Bobby were like, when he got the belt, they were like, oh, I didn't know. You know,
so what they do then, because Sting attacked Charles Robinson, he is stripped of the title. So nobody's the champion.
So you attack a referee, you're stripped of your belt? Is that?
Yeah, apparently so, yeah.
They keep to that? You know,
I know. Well, DDP's not getting a belt ever. So then they start a 32-man 10-man tournament.
We're going to do this?
No.
That sounds good. I love tournaments.
Well, I was going to go down the brackets with you.
That's it.
We'll see. Yeah, we only get the semi-finals and the final the next pay-per-view.
Okay.
But to be honest, it's not as good as it sounds on paper.
Because I love a wee tournament. Like,
there's a lot. I love tournaments.
Yeah.
Okay, so first round, here are your matches. There's some great ones in here and some what the fuck is that? So Bret Hart against Goldberg.
Is that where that happens? The kick?
No, that's not yet. Eddie Guerrero against Perry Saturn. Norman Smiley against Bam Bam Bigelow.
Okay.
Billy Kidman against Conan. Total Package against Rick Steiner.
How did they do that?
What?
Is it a random draw?
Well, they're saying it's a random draw, but it's...
But no, what I mean by like they're not annoyed. They're against each other. Billy Kidman and Conan.
No, they just had a match. Total Package Rick Steiner, DDP David Flair, Meng against Medusa, Sting against Brian Knobbs, Chris Benoit against Dean Malenko, La Parka against Evan Courageous, Scott Hall against Sid Vicious, Ernest Miller against Lash LaRue, Buff Bagwell against Stevie Ray, Vampiro against Berlin, Disco Inferno against Kurt Hennig, and Booker T against Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
Right, okay, first of all, let's talk about Halloween Havoc as a whole. Did you enjoy the show?
I mean, yeah.
You did not enjoy it, but...
I did not. I've watched worse. Maybe you can never tell. Living in Europe, you can never tell how you feel about pay-per-views you watched in your childhood because you're so exhausted. Like, you've seen some really good pay-per-views, but you've been wrecked. Whereas I watched this in bits, and I kind of went, I wasn't hating it.
Yeah. Is it better or worse than Fall Brawl?
I think it's better.
I think it's better too.
Yeah.
It's better as well than Nitro, which was a fucking shit show.
It's frustrating. Obviously, there's you kind of go, I wouldn't mind a couple of matches.
Yeah.
3 matches
that are just
normal
matches.
Yeah, don't have to be one-on-one even. It can be triple threats. It can be anything
at all, yeah.
But just a couple of contests. Because there's a couple of matches building up. This is building up. And then they go, let's do something stupid enough. Give us a wee 20 minute of normality.
Okay, first of all, give me your highlight of the night. What was your favourite match or moment? Or
do you know his match of the night? Eddie Guerrero. A lot of nostalgia. A lot of love for him. Don't even know if it was the best match of the night, but I just love seeing him. The most memorable of the night for me was Stevie Ray doing a splash with that mummy thing because it looks so shit.
And your low light?
Probably that as well. Probably low light was, in general, being confused at finishes.
Yeah.
Being made to feel stupid.
Yeah, there was a couple of times tonight where you're like, what was meant to happen there?
I know, but I'm like, am I wrong? I haven't seen this era. And,
See, I would say it was probably my highlight. It's hard to pick a match. I'd probably go with Goldberg Sid. Actually, I really like the way they did that.
Yeah.
Honorable mention to Saturn Malenko, and I really like Steiner Benoit as well, actually.
Actually, no, that was good, yeah.
Low light, I mean, the Hogan Sting thing was bullshit.
Yeah.
But I'm not even going to count that as a proper match. Berlin Armstrong was just nothing.
That's irrelevant.
And the tag title match was a mess.
I can almost say they're Disco and Berlin. They're not even low lights, they're just so irrelevant.
And seeing Buff Bagwell again.
I know.
I just
it's going to be worse when I see him wrestling, isn't it?
No, yeah. Can't wait for that. So what would you give it out of 5?
Out of 5, probably, easy, a 3, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say 3.
Yeah,
I think it is better than Fall Brawl.
It's definitely, 2 means it's kind of boring.
It's a bit of a mess, but I could see why, if you were a fan now, if you liked this, you'd be like, you know what? There's reasons to be optimistic about this. It feels like at least, and they're pushing different people, and it may help the top of the card that Hogan and Flair aren't there because that frees up a couple of slots, but who the fuck knows, really?
Yeah.
Who knows? So, right, our next episode will be Mayhem, which still be Mayhem 1999. It's in Canada, so that's they do a sellout. I think it's 13,000 people at it or something.
Okay.
So would you like to hear the card?
Yes.
Okay, so I won't tell you the main event because the main event is the world title final, so that would spoil who wins the semis, if you know what I mean. So opening match is a semi-final match in the world title tournament. Jeff Jarrett against Chris Benoit. Then Cruiserweight title, Disco Inferno against Evan Courageous. Hardcore title match, Brian Knobbs against Norman Smiley. 6-man tag elimination match, which is Eddie Guerrero, Kidman and Torrie Wilson against Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn and Asia. A loser must retire match, so cross your fingers because it's Buff Bagwell against Kurt Hennig.
Oh, shit. What's Kurt Hennig doing?
I know. The second semi-final match is Sting against Bret Hart. Then a chain match, Vampiro against Berlin. Singles match, Total Package against Meng. A match for the US title and the TV title, Scott Hall against Booker T. David Flair against Kimberly.
No. Really?
Yeah. Goldberg, Sid Vicious, I Quit match. And then the tournament final.
Okay.
It's on paper there's some good...
Give me the second semi-final again. Just
Sting, Bret Hart,
okay,
and Jeff Jarrett, Chris Benoit was the other one.
That's quite interesting because I couldn't call that. Be like,
well, Sting's the only one's ever won the world title before out of the 4.
Yeah, so what Bret Hart, Benoit is obviously you'd be like, that'd be a cool match,
Yeah,
but maybe you don't get that.
Make it Sting Jeff Jarrett.
I know, yeah.
Like
but
mid 2000s TNA all over again.
Sting Benoit is good. Yeah, basically just anything without Jeff Jarrett's good. And I may well get Jeff Jarrett from what I'm feeling, you know.
So that looks like a decent enough card. So that's really it for this month's episode.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in, as
Thank you very
always.
much for
All the social media handles and all that are in the description. Tell your friends to listen if they like that sort of thing.
Even if they don't.
Even if they don't.
Do you know, a lot of people listen to podcasts now just to drift off.
Well, that's it. So, and here's the thing: whether you listen or don't, the download numbers look the same.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts just as I go to sleep.
you're very familiar with the first 10 minutes of a lot of podcasts.
And it annoys you. Like, some of them are like, oh, this is actually quite interesting, and it keeps you awake. So in a weird sort of way, but our voices have to be relaxing enough, you know, like
or our voice is relaxing.
some people.
What if we did a bit of ASMR?
That's unsettling because you're like, is there someone in the room? Whereas podcast, like, there's James Richardson, he's definitely not in the room.
Yeah.
I actually do love that podcast.
It'd be great if he was in the room. Actually, though.
Making puns. But so ideally you want a podcast where, like, I know about this stuff, so maybe our audience would be like, I was alive in the 90s, I know who Sting is and Hulk Hogan. I don't care.
Yeah, perfect. Maybe a lot of people will fall asleep as we talk about Buff Bagwell.
Yeah.
Thanks, Buff. We'll maybe get you to do an intro for us. So, yep, that'll do it for this episode of The Worst There Was. As I say, we'll be back with WCW Mayhem 1999 as we continue our journey into... Now, this also, what's interesting about Mayhem, actually, is it's the first pay-per-view where they've done all the booking and leading up to it. So this will be totally their
that's
vision.
all on them.
And that's why we're getting David Flair Kimberly.
Yes.
But on that note, thanks for listening to The Worst There Was. I've been Alan Irwin.
And I've been Ronan Linsky.
And we'll see you very soon.
Bye.